I woke up in a hospital bed, disoriented. I was supposed to be on my way home from shopping. Where am I? I asked the nurse. She explained that I had been rear-ended by a car and urgently transported to the hospital. My husband rushed in and exclaimed, "Why are you still lying on the bed? Let's go home, get discharged now, and make my dinner. If you can't fulfill your wife's duties, I'll divorce you." I couldn't believe what I had just heard. Who says that to their wife, especially when she's bandaged up and in pain? It was unbelievable. In that moment, I lost all my feelings for a husband who didn't seem to care about me at all. I started preparing to leave him. He was certain that I, as a housewife, couldn't possibly divorce him. Little did he know, he would be the one struggling if I brought up divorce. My name is Lisa. I became a housewife after marrying Daniel, following his wish. I never disliked my job, and my hard work had started paying off, putting me in an important position with talks of a promotion and reshuffle ahead. When I shared the news of the promotion with Daniel, he immediately insisted that I become a housewife after marriage, convinced we could get by on his salary with some savings. Overwhelmed by his passion, I quit my job. My coworkers and bosses were disappointed, but it was important for me to align with Daniel as a couple. After I quit, Daniel started to assert his superiority because he was the breadwinner, reminding me that I couldn't live without him. Looking back, he probably pushed for me to quit because he feared I might earn more than him with the promotion on the horizon. Despite this, I devoted myself to supporting Daniel's work and making our home comfortable. I managed meals, considering his schedule, and ensured perfect cleanliness. Yet Daniel couldn't resist complaining. Tonight's dinner was a bit bland, he'd say. I'd explain my reasoning, but he'd always find something to nitpick. Over time, he started coming home later, reeking of women's perfume. When I asked about his late nights and health, he'd brush me off, irritated. "I have a lot going on at work," he'd snap. "What exactly are you doing during the day?" I felt compelled to justify my every move, detailing my chores and activities. His mistrust grew, and he began demanding a daily schedule of my whereabouts. "Hey, what are you going to do today?" he'd inquire with a suspicious tone. "I plan to do the laundry and cleaning in the morning, then go grocery shopping in the afternoon." "When are you going to be back from shopping?" Daniel asked. "I can't say for sure, maybe around 4 o'clock, I replied. "Okay, got it. Don't be later than 4. I'm going to call home to check on you," he said. "Why would you do that?" "To make sure you're not slacking off on your housework," Daniel replied, starting to manage my schedule down to the hour. That day, my shopping took longer than expected, and I rushed home on my bicycle. It was already past 4 o'clock. I need to hurry back home or Daniel will get mad at me again, I thought to myself, speeding up. In my hurry, I didn't notice the car approaching from behind. The next moment, I felt an impact on my back. Before I knew it, I found myself lying in a hospital bed, trying to sit up, feeling pain throughout my body. A nurse, noticing my consciousness, hastily called for a doctor. "Oh, you're awake? You were hit by a car from behind," the doctor explained. According to him, I was rear-ended while riding my bike, fainted unconscious from the impact, and an ambulance brought me to the hospital. Fortunately, there was no bleeding or head injury, just full body bruises. Though I was in pain, there were no fractures or lasting damage, and I was told I could be discharged in a few weeks. Relieved, I checked my phone and saw a slew of missed calls from Daniel. "I need to call Daniel. He must be worried sick," I muttered to myself. The nurse quickly intervened, saying, "I've already notified your husband." Unfortunately, he couldn't pick up the call, so I left a message on his voicemail. "I might have made him worry," she explained. "Your wife was in a car accident and has been urgently transported to our hospital." The nurse had left that message in her voicemail, prompting me to call my husband. "Hey Daniel, it's me, Lisa. What the hell are you doing? Why aren't you coming home?" I asked urgently. I did listen to the voicemail. "You're awake now, right? So you can come home, can't you?" Daniel replied impatiently. "I can't come home. I was in a car accident. I'll be staying in the hospital for a few weeks," I explained, hoping he would understand the severity. "If you're being hospitalized, what?" Daniel's voice trailed off, and it seemed he had assumed my injuries weren't serious. "I'm coming right now," he abruptly said, and hung up. An hour later, Daniel burst into my hospital room. "Lisa," he exclaimed. I felt relieved to see him, but his next words left me frozen. "How long are you going to lie there? Let's go home," he demanded. "What? Go home? What on earth are you saying?" I couldn't hide my confusion as I responded. I can't go home. I was in a car accident today, I reminded him. Just because it was an accident doesn't mean you're knocking on death's door. You're fine. Discharge yourself immediately and make my dinner, he insisted, his tone growing more impatient. Can't you see these bandages? How do you expect me to cook in this state? I protested. You're overreacting with this hospital stay. I bet if I hadn't come to fetch you, you'd just be lazily lying on the bed. Here I am, worn out from work, and you won't even cook dinner. That's unacceptable as a wife, Daniel retorted sharply. Look, the hospital says I need to stay for a few weeks. It's not about being lazy, it's about getting necessary treatment, I insisted. Use any excuse you want, but if you think I'll let you off the hook for housework, you're wrong. If this isn't working for you, I'm okay with getting a divorce, Daniel retorted. That's ridiculous. I can't possibly do housework in this state, I argued. Well then, divorce it is, he said coldly. Daniel seemed to care more about having his housework done than the fact that I had been in a car accident. I felt myself falling out of love with him quickly. Having discovered his true feelings, I made up my mind on the spot. All right, I said. Hearing this, Daniel smirked, seemingly victorious. That's right, you should understand that my word is law. Seeing me still not trying to move, Daniel started to lose his patience. Hey, how long are you going to keep lying around? Start getting ready to leave. Just as Daniel tried to forcibly get me up, the doctor entered the room. What on earth do you think you're doing? He demanded. I was just about to take her home, Daniel responded. Upon hearing this, the doctor became livid. What nonsense. There's a thorough examination scheduled for tomorrow, so she's not allowed to leave. Hearing this, Daniel scoffed at me. If there's an examination and I'll wait 2 or 3 days, I'll stay at my parents' house in the meantime, so make sure you're home by then. As Daniel left the room, I watched him go with a cold gaze. Then I called my lawyer. I didn't have a single shred of affection left for him. Hello, I would like to proceed with that matter, I said, calling my lawyer from the hospital bed. I continued making a few more phone calls, steadily preparing for what was to come. 3 days later, Daniel called my cell. Lisa, why the hell aren't you home yet? He demanded. Are you back home from your parents' house? I asked. Yeah, I am, he grumbled. The examination's over, isn't it? Then stop lounging around and get back to the chores that have piled up. Daniel didn't even bother to ask me about the medical test results. He didn't seem to care about my health one bit. Daniel, you've been staying at your parents' place all this time, right? I asked calmly. I told you already, didn't I? So what? Did you happen to check the mail sent to your parents' house? I inquired. Mail? What on earth did you send? He asked, sounding confused. Divorce papers, I said. In fact, I had a lawyer send the divorce papers, already signed by me, to Daniel's parents' house. The divorce papers, he repeated, surprised. Why are you surprised? You were the one who said, let's get a divorce, weren't you? I reminded him. Daniel sighed as if mocking me. I never thought you were that stupid. Do you think you can live on your own after divorcing me? Who provides for you? My decision was definitely the right one. I can't start doing house chores right after the accident. I need to take better care of my health. That's why I decided to divorce you, I stated firmly. You think you can make a living after divorcing me? You rushed into this decision. Daniel laughed loudly and then hung up the phone. But Daniel had no idea what was coming next. The following day, his parents rushed to the hospital in a panic. We saw what our son has done. It's terrible, they said as they entered my hospital room, bowing their heads in apology. No, it's not your fault, I replied calmly. You're right, the person who needs to apologize is Daniel himself, my father-in-law said. He immediately called Daniel. Come to the hospital immediately, he ordered. Daniel, not understanding what was going on but hearing the seriousness in his father's voice, arrived in my room within minutes. Dad, what's going on? Why'd you call me here? Daniel complained, only to be berated by his father on the spot. Don't be stupid, you caused a mess. Apologize to Lisa right now. What? What are you talking about? Daniel asked, bewildered. My father-in-law held out the envelope I had sent to their house. This letter, which was delivered to our house, he said. Hearing this, Daniel began to laugh with an air of confidence. Oh, the divorce papers. Lisa went and took my threats seriously and sent me the papers. She wouldn't be able to live without me, yet she's acting so foolishly. The problem is this document here, my father-in-law said, taking out a bill for consolation money from the envelope. Upon seeing it, Daniel's face turned pale. Consolation money? Lisa was the one who sent me the divorce papers. Why should I? Daniel stammered. I'd be the one to pay consolation money. She abandoned her duties as a wife, checks herself into a hospital, and I'm the one who owes consolation money. Daniel protested. Enough with all this, my father-in-law said, his voice filled with suppressed anger. He pulled out photographs and a report from the envelope. These are the evidence of your cheating, and here's the investigator's report. Looking at these, there's no doubt you're in the wrong. I can't believe what you've done. Seeing the photos and the report, Daniel turned pale. Lisa, when did you manage to get all this? I had started to suspect Daniel's cheating when he began coming home late, claiming it was for work. He would return each night smelling of women's perfume. At first, I thought he was just drinking at places frequented by women, but when I discreetly checked his credit card statements, I discovered he was dining at trendy restaurants and buying popular brands loved by young women. It was obvious he was spending money on dates with another woman. His behavior became more blatant over time. He started increasing the frequency of his affairs, finding opportunities during his outdoor work hours and even on weekdays. The detailed checks on my daytime activities were his way of avoiding running into me during his meetings with her. Still, I held on to the hope that he would return to me someday. However, Daniel trampled all over these feelings, showing no concern for me after the accident and treating me like a maid. At that moment, I decided to exact my revenge on him. As soon as Daniel left the hospital room, I took action. I contacted my lawyer and asked him to send the signed divorce papers and the bill for consolation money, which I had prepared in advance, to Daniel's parents' house. Knowing him, he was probably spending time with his mistress instead of going home to his family. My guess was spot on. Unlike my husband, my in-laws are upright people who would never approve of their son's cheating. Sure enough, upon receiving my letter, my father-in-law and his wife were quick to rush to my hospital room. Having learned everything, Daniel stood there in a daze. So, Lisa, you knew about my cheating all along? Yes, of course, I replied, looking at him with icy eyes. You come home smelling like women's perfume, and you lavish your mistress with your credit card. It's so obvious it would be strange if I didn't notice. Plus, all your phone notifications were visible to me, so I knew exactly when and where you were meeting your mistress. Thanks to that, it was easy to gather evidence. I'm sorry, I was just tempted. I wasn't serious about the divorce. I thought you would come back home right away, Daniel stammered. Even if you weren't serious, I am. I don't want to continue a marriage with a husband who doesn't even worry when his wife has an accident and tries to make her do household chores. You were having fun with your mistress while I was hospitalized, weren't you? I accuse. Hold on, calm down. You're a housewife, right? You wouldn't be able to make a living if you left me. Don't be stubborn. Just let the past be water under the bridge, Daniel pleaded. Excuse me, there's no way I can just let it slide. I became a housewife because you wanted me to. If I get divorced, I'll start working right away. I won't rely on you anymore, I asserted. Start working right away? How long do you think it's been since you quit your job? Your previous company has definitely found your replacement by now, he scoffed. Do you think I've just been doing housework all these years? I've been continuously studying business in my spare time, I revealed confidently. I've got a few ideas lined up so I could probably propose several projects now, I said confidently. It's not that easy. The economy is down everywhere. Even I, who's been working the whole time, can't get a promotion easily, Daniel retorted. Isn't that because you're incompetent at work? A person who dates their mistress during outdoor work hours has bigger problems than just capability, I shot back. What? What would you know? He snapped. I think I know more than you do. In fact, when I approached my former company, they said they wanted me back under the same conditions as before, I revealed. The same conditions? You'd be earning more than me, he said, shocked. Yes, indeed. It was all for nothing, even though you were the one who encouraged me to become a housewife and quit my job. If you didn't want to be overtaken by your wife's salary, maybe you should have tried harder instead of pulling me down, I retorted. Hold on, if that's the case, you don't need the consolation money, right? Please withdraw your claim, he pleaded. Excuse me, there's no way I'm withdrawing it. This consolation money is to make up for the wrong you did. You can't just cheat on your wife and ignore her without facing any penalties. I said firmly. I'm sorry. I really regret it. Please forgive me, he begged. I will never forgive you. It's not enough to just say you're sorry. You need to show it with your actions. Go to hell, I said coldly. Daniel was unconvinced, but in the end, my in-laws stood up for me, and he finally agreed to the divorce and the payment of the consolation money. After paying the money, Daniel seemed to continue his relationship with his mistress without learning his lesson. However, it seems his company found out about his frequent dating during outdoor work hours, and he ended up getting demoted and having his salary cut. To top it all off, Daniel, who had almost run out of savings due to the consolation money payment, was promptly dumped by his girlfriend. News about the cause of his divorce and his demotion spread throughout the company, and I heard that he completely lost his place there. On the other hand, I was able to be discharged from the hospital safely without any after effects from the accident. I used the consolation money I received to move, and now I'm settling into my new home leisurely. My work after returning has been going smoothly, and life has been better since the divorce. That accident may have been a good catalyst for the divorce. I decided not to look back at the past and strive forward to a new life.
The invitation wasn't necessary. I knew exactly when and where Helena's baby shower would be held. Standing outside the country club's entrance, I smoothed down my black dress, purposefully chosen to stand out among the pastels I knew would fill the room. My name is Zuriel, and today I was crashing my sister's party. Miss, are you at the Howard celebration? The doorman's polite inquiry made me pause. Yes, I replied, the lie sliding easily off my tongue. I'm the sister. His eyes widened slightly. Clearly, he'd been briefed about the guest list. But before he could object, I strode past him with the confidence that had carried me through countless gallery openings in Paris. The sound of feminine laughter guided me to a private room decorated in soft pinks and blues. Through the glass doors, I spotted Helena, her pregnant belly draped in a flowing white dress, surrounded by our mother's country club friends. Mom stood beside her, beaming with the pride she'd never shown for me. I pushed open the door. The laughter died instantly. Zuriel. Helena's voice cracked. What are you doing here? Mom's face hardened. This is a private event. I brought a gift for my future niece or nephew. I held up the carefully wrapped package. Surely you wouldn't turn that away. The room remained silent as I approached Helena. Up close, I could see the uncertainty in her eyes. The same look she'd given me 3 years ago when I announced I was moving to Paris to pursue my art career. Thank you, Helena whispered, accepting the package. Her fingers trembled as she unwrapped it, revealing a small original painting I'd created. A whimsical Paris scene perfect for a nursery. It's beautiful, she admitted, and for a moment I saw my little sister again, not the perfect daughter who'd replaced me in our parents' eyes. How's Russell? I asked, noting his absence. Still busy with all those international business trips? Helena's smile faltered. He's in Singapore this week. Very important meetings. Of course. I smiled, thinking of the file hidden in my apartment. The one I'd stumbled upon during my latest exhibition in Paris, containing proof that my brother-in-law's business trips weren't exactly legitimate. Mom stepped between us. Zuriel, this isn't the time or place. Helena needs to rest, not deal with unexpected situations. Unexpected situations? I laughed. Is that what I am now? Not your daughter, just an unexpected situation? Please, Helena pleaded. Don't make a scene. Make a scene? Like when you all made a scene walking out of my first gallery showing? Or when Russell convinced Dad not to invest in my art studio because it wasn't a sound business decision. The other guests shifted uncomfortably. Good. Let them see the cracks in this perfect family facade. That's enough. Mom grabbed my arm, her manicured nails digging into my skin. You need to leave, now. I yanked free. Don't worry, I'm going. But Helena? I turned to my sister. You might want to ask Russell about his recent trip to Paris, specifically about what he was doing at the Galerie Saint-Germain last month. Helena's face paled. Mom practically shoved me toward the door, but I'd said what I came to say. The seed was planted. In the parking lot, my phone buzzed. A text from Giselle. Did you do it? Phase 1 complete. I typed back. They have no idea what's coming. My hands shook as I started my car. The hurt in Helena's eyes haunted me, but I pushed it aside. They'd hurt me worse, year after year, rejection after rejection. Now it was time for truth to shatter their perfect little world. Another text came through, this time from Ty. Got more info on Russell's operations. You need to see this. I smiled, thinking of the evidence mounting in my apartment. Soon, very soon, they'd all know exactly who Russell Howard really was. And maybe, just maybe, they'd finally see who I really am too. As I drove away from the country club, I caught a glimpse of my reflection in the rearview mirror. I looked exactly like what they thought I was. The black sheep, the troublemaker, the unwanted daughter. But by the time this was over, they'd learned that appearances can be deceiving. Just ask Russell Howard about that. Holy shit, Giselle whispered, spreading the documents across my coffee table. How did you even get these? I took a sip of wine, remembering the moment in Paris when everything changed. Right place, right time. The gallery owner was arguing with Russell in his office. When they stormed out, he left his laptop open. And you just helped yourself to his files? The folder was literally named Shipping Manifests. Who labels their illegal documents that clearly? Giselle picked up a spreadsheet, her eyes widening. These numbers, they're not just shipping art, are they? No. I pulled out my phone, showing her the photos I'd taken. See these paintings? They're forgeries. Really good ones. Russell's been using art galleries as fronts for money laundering. The shipping costs are just cover for moving dirty money across borders. Does Helena have any idea? The question hit me hard. No. She thinks he's this amazing businessman building their perfect life. I grabbed another document. Look at this. He's been siphoning money from Dad's investment too. The studio deal he talked Dad out of? He redirected those funds into his own operation. My phone buzzed. A text from Ty. Meeting set with the gallery owner tomorrow. He's ready to talk. You're really going through with this? Giselle asked, concern etched on her face. Watch this, I said, pulling up Instagram. Helena's latest post showed her cradling her belly, Russell's arm around her shoulders. The caption read, "Counting down the days with my amazing husband. Blessed. Yes, perfect life. That's what they all believe in. The perfect life. The perfect marriage. The perfect daughter who made all the right choices." I stood up, pacing. While I'm the failure who chose art over stability, the embarrassment they had to explain away at dinner parties. Zuriel, Giselle started. No, listen. Yesterday at the shower? Mom couldn't even look at me, but she'll look at me now. They all will. My phone rang. Helena's name flashing on the screen. I let it go to voicemail. What's your actual plan here? Giselle asked, gathering the documents. You can't just dump all this on them at once. They'll never believe it. Already handled. I pulled out 3 envelopes. This one goes to Dad, proof that Russell stole his investment money. This one's for Mom, evidence of Russell's affairs in Paris. And this... I held up the last envelope. Goes to Helena. Photos of Russell with his other family in Singapore. Other family? Giselle gasped. Wife and kid. Helena's not his first perfect life. The voicemail notification pinged. Helena's voice filled the room. Zuri, about what you said at the shower, about Russell in Paris, please call me back. Please. She's scared, Giselle observed. She should be. I sealed the envelopes. The truth is terrifying. Another text from Ty. Gallery owner says Russell threatened him, wants to come clean. What if this destroys them? Giselle asked quietly. Not just Russell, but your whole family? I walked to my window, looking out at the city lights. They destroyed me first. Year after year, event after event, choosing him over me, making me feel worthless because I didn't fit their mold. And this will fix that? No. I turned back to her. But it will force them to see the truth. About Russell. About themselves. About me. My phone buzzed again. A text from Mom. Your sister is upset. Whatever you're doing, stop it. Haven't you caused enough problems? I showed Giselle the message. See? Still blaming me. Still protecting their precious Russell. When are you sending the envelopes? Tomorrow morning. First-class mail, so they'll arrive the next day. I gathered them up. Just in time for their Sunday family dinner. The dinner you're never invited to? Exactly. I smiled grimly. But this week I'll be there. They'll need answers only I can give them. Giselle stood, hugging me tight. Just be careful, okay? Revenge has a way of hurting everyone, including the person seeking it. After she left, I sat alone with the envelopes, running my fingers over the sealed edges. 3 years of pain, of rejection, of watching Russell systematically take my place in my own family. All coming down to these 3 envelopes. My phone lit up with one final text from Helena. Whatever you know, please. I'm pregnant. Don't do anything to hurt my baby. I picked up the envelopes, my hand trembling slightly. I'm not the one who hurt your baby. I whispered to the empty room. Your perfect husband did that all on his own. Tomorrow, the truth would begin to unravel their perfect world, and I would be there to watch it burn. The cafe across from my parents' house gave me a perfect view of the morning's chaos. I watched the mail carrier deliver the envelopes, then waited. Giselle sat beside me, nervously stirring her untouched coffee. How long do you think? She started, but my phone's buzz cut her off. Mom's name flashed on the screen. I declined the call. Shouldn't you answer? Giselle asked. Not yet. Wait for it. Dad called next. Then Helena. Their house erupted with activity. Mom pacing by the window, Dad's car screeching out of the driveway. Where's he going? Giselle asked. To his investment advisor, probably. Checking if what I sent him is real. My phone buzzed again. A text from Ty. Russell just called the gallery owner, threatening him. Want me to send the recording? Yes. I typed back. More ammunition. A black SUV pulled up to my parents' house. Russell jumped out, moving with the panicked energy of a man whose world was crumbling. He'd clearly cut his business trip short. Here we go, I murmured. Through the cafe window, I watched Russell burst into the house. Even from across the street, I could hear the shouting. Helena appeared in the doorway, one hand on her belly, the other holding the photos I'd sent. God, she looks devastated, Giselle whispered. She needs to know the truth. My phone rang again. Helena. This time, I answered. How could you? She sobbed. How could you do this to me? How could I? How could he? Did you look at the date stamps on those photos, Helena? His other kid is 3 years old. He was married before he ever met you. You're lying. Russell says they're fake. Check his phone. I cut in. Right now. Check his deleted messages. Silence. Then muffled voices as she presumably confronted him. Zuri. Her voice broke. What do I do? Come to the cafe across the street. Alone. She's actually coming, Giselle said, watching Helena waddle across the street, tears streaming down her face. I stood as she entered, her pregnant belly leading the way. She looked smaller somehow, diminished. Sit, I said, pulling out a chair. There's more you need to see. I can't, she started. You can, and you will. I pulled out my tablet, showing her the shipping manifests, the bank transfers, the evidence of Russell's real business. This is who you married, Helena. This is who they chose over me. She scrolled through the documents, her hands shaking. Dad's investment money. All gone, along with the money from 3 other families. Russell's been running this scheme for years. Through the window, we watched Russell storm out of the house, shouting into his phone. Mom followed him, pleading. Why didn't you tell me sooner? Helena asked. Would you have believed me? Over perfect Russell? She flinched. We really did that to you, didn't we? Pushed you away. Chose him. My phone buzzed with Ty's message, the recording of Russell threatening the gallery owner. I played it for Helena. Jesus, she whispered. I don't even recognize his voice. He sounds like a criminal, because that's what he is. Police sirens wailed in the distance, getting closer. Did you? Helena looked at me, panic rising. No, but Russell's partners might be cutting their losses. The gallery owner wasn't the only one I contacted. The sirens grew louder. 2 police cars pulled up to our parents' house. Russell saw them and ran, straight toward the cafe. Helena, he shouted, bursting through the door. Don't listen to her. I can explain everything. Explain this, I said, turning my tablet to show a video of him making deals in Paris. Or this? Another swipe revealed photos of money exchanges. You bitch, he snarled, lunging toward me. Giselle stuck out her foot. Russell sprawled face first onto the cafe floor as police officers rushed in. Russell Howard? One officer asked. We have some questions about your art import business. As they led him away in handcuffs, Helena gripped my hand. The baby. We'll have one hell of a story to tell someday, I said. But at least they'll know the truth. Mom appeared in the cafe doorway, mascara streaking her cheeks. What have you done, Zuriel? No, Mom. Helena spoke up, her voice stronger. What have we done? To Zuri? To our family? To ourselves? I watched Mom's face crumple as the truth finally hit her. Outside, Dad's car returned, just in time to see his son-in-law being driven away in a police car. Well, Giselle muttered, guess you're not uninvited from family dinners anymore. But looking at my shattered family, I wondered if there would be any more family dinners to attend. 3 days after Russell's arrest, I sat across from my parents at their dining room table. The same table where they'd once told me I was throwing my life away by pursuing art. Now they were the ones looking lost. The bank called again, Dad said, his voice hollow. Almost everything's gone. Mom's hand trembled as she poured more wine. How did we not see it? Because you didn't want to see it, I replied. Russell showed you what you wanted. Success, stability, status. Everything you thought I couldn't give you. That's not fair, Mom snapped, but Dad raised his hand. No, Vera, let her speak. We owe her that much. I pulled out my phone, showing them more documents. Russell didn't just steal your money, Dad. He used your reputation to lure in other investors. Your friends at the country club? Check their accounts. Dad's face went ashen. The Thompsons' retirement fund. Gone, along with the Williams' college savings for their kids. Stop it, Mom pleaded. Just stop. Why? Because it hurts? Because it ruins your perfect image of him? Because your sister is upstairs crying herself sick, Mom shot back. Because everything we believed in is falling apart. Now you know how I felt. I stood up, pacing. Every time you chose him over me. Every time you praised his real job while dismissing my art. Every time you made me feel worthless because I didn't fit your plan. The stairs creaked. Helena appeared, looking exhausted. I heard shouting. You should be resting. Mom started, but Helena waved her off. I've done enough resting. She sat down heavily. I want to know everything, Zuri. No more secrets. I pulled out my tablet, but Dad stopped me. First, I need to know something. How did you find all this out? Remember that gallery showing in Paris? The one none of you attended? The flinches around the table were satisfying. Russell was there, making one of his deals. He got sloppy, left evidence. Once I started digging. Why didn't you go to the police first? Mom demanded. Would you have believed them over Russell? Or would you have blamed me for trying to ruin Helena's perfect life? The silence was answer enough. My phone buzzed. Ty again. More victims coming forward. Russell's operation bigger than we thought. You might want to warn your family. There's more, isn't there? Helena asked, reading my expression. Russell's other wife came forward. In Singapore. She's working with the authorities. Mom's wine glass slipped, shattering on the floor. No one moved to clean it up. I trusted him, Dad whispered. With my money, my reputation, my daughter. We all did, Helena said. Because he was everything you wanted in a son-in-law. Unlike what? I pressed. Unlike the life you chose, she finished. The life we rejected. Mom started crying. Not her usual controlled tears, but deep, ugly sobs. I was so afraid, she choked out. After your father's brother lost everything pursuing his dreams, I couldn't bear to see you struggle like that. So you pushed me away instead? We pushed you toward safety, Dad said. Or what we thought was safety. Look how well that turned out. Helena reached for my hand across the table. Show me the rest, Zuri. Show us everything. For the next hour, I laid it all out. The forged artwork, the money laundering, the multiple families, the threatened gallery owners. With each revelation, my family's perfect world crumbled further. The police want to talk to all of you, I said finally. About the investments, the companies Russell set up in your names. Our names? Dad looked up sharply. He used your identities to create shell corporations. That's why I had to do this my way. If I'd gone to the police first, you might have been implicated. You were protecting us, Helena realized. Even after everything. You're my family. The words caught in my throat. Even when you didn't want me, you were still my family. Mom stood up suddenly, her chair scraping back. For a moment, I thought she was going to walk away again. Instead, she wrapped her arms around me, holding me like she hadn't since I was small. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm so sorry. One by one, they joined the embrace. Dad, then Helena, her belly pressing against my back. We stood there, a broken family trying to find its way back together. My phone buzzed again in my pocket, but I ignored it. The truth could wait a moment longer. Right now, in this shattered dining room with its broken wine glass and broken dreams, something else was finally breaking too. The walls we'd built between us. The police station's fluorescent lights made everyone look sickly. Helena sat beside me, hands protectively over her belly, while Mom and Dad spoke with detectives in separate rooms. Mrs. Howard? A detective approached Helena. We need your statement now. I'll come with you, I offered, but Helena shook her head. I need to do this alone, Zuri. I need to face it. As she waddled away, Giselle arrived with coffee. How's it going? They've been questioning Dad for 2 hours. Mom's barely holding it together. My phone lit up with a message from Russell's lawyer. My client requests a meeting with you. Alone. No way in hell, Giselle said, reading over my shoulder. Actually, I stood up. This might be exactly what we need. Zuri, don't... But I was already walking to the detective's desk. 20 minutes later, I sat across from Russell in an interview room, a recording device between us. You look terrible, I observed. The designer suits were gone, replaced by orange prison wear. You've ruined everything, he snarled. My business, my reputation. Your multiple families? I cut in. How's the son in Singapore, by the way? His fist slammed the table. You think you're so clever, but you've destroyed your sister's life. That baby will grow up without a father. Better than growing up with a criminal for a father. I can still fix this. He leaned forward. I have offshore accounts. Money your father will never see again unless you help me. I smiled, tapping the recorder. There it is, the threat I was waiting for. His face darkened. You recorded... The door burst open. 2 detectives entered, followed by my father. That's enough, Dad said. We got what we needed. Russell lunged across the table, but the detectives were faster. As they dragged him away, he shouted, Your precious artist daughter isn't so innocent. Ask her how she really got those files. Dad turned to me. Is there something I should know? I might have borrowed some files from his laptop. In Paris. Illegally? Let's say I made an unauthorized backup of data he left unsecured in a public space. Dad's laugh surprised me. The first real laugh I'd heard from him in years. You always were too smart for your own good. Back in the waiting area, Helena was finishing her statement. Mom sat nearby, looking through her phone. "What are you doing?" I asked her. "Looking at your art website. I never actually looked at it before." She turned the screen toward me. "These prices, Zuri. People pay this much for your work?" "More, usually. That's just the gallery price." "More than Russell made in his legitimate deals," Dad muttered. Helena joined us, exhausted but somehow lighter. "They're charging him with fraud, money laundering, and identity theft, among other things." "The Singapore authorities want to extradite him too," I added. "Good," Helena said firmly. "Let them have him." Mom stood suddenly. "I need to show you all something." She led us to her car, drove to their house, and went straight to the study. From a hidden safe, she pulled out a folder. "Your first gallery submission," she said, handing it to me. "The one we rejected." I kept it. Inside were photos of my early work, along with glowing reviews from art critics. "You kept this?" My hands shook. "But you said my art was worthless." "Because I was scared," Mom whispered. "Scared you'd struggle, scared you'd fail. Instead, you succeeded brilliantly, and we failed you." Helena picked up one of the photos. "I remember this piece. You painted it the summer before college." "Before you all decided my future wasn't worth investing in," I said. "We were wrong," Dad said simply. "About everything." My phone buzzed. Ty again. "Gallery owner wants to feature your new series. Theme, Family Secrets. You in?" I looked at my family, Mom clutching my old portfolio, Dad looking at my current prices with newfound respect, Helena studying my early work with genuine interest. "I have a proposition," I said. "The gallery wants to feature my new work. But I'm thinking, maybe we could use it to help make things right." "What do you mean?" Dad asked. "We sell the pieces, use the money to help repay the families Russell stole from." "You'd do that?" Mom's eyes welled up. "That's what family does, right? Helps fix each other's mistakes?" Helena hugged me, her belly pressing between us. "Speaking of family, I've been thinking about names for the baby." "Please tell me you're not sticking with Russell Jr." I groaned. She laughed. Actually laughed. "I was thinking, how do you feel about being a namesake?" Mom gasped. Dad grinned. And I finally felt like I was home. "Just promise me one thing," I said. "If the kid wants to be an artist, we'll be their biggest supporters," they all said together. And for once, I believed them. "Are you sure about this?" Giselle asked, helping me hang the last painting, a dark, swirling piece titled Family Lies. The gallery buzzed with pre-opening activity. In 2 hours, it would be filled with art critics, potential buyers, and most nervously, the families Russell had defrauded. "They deserve to see it," I said, adjusting the lighting. "All of it." My phone buzzed. "Helena. Water broke. At hospital. Don't worry about coming. Focus on gallery." "Yeah, right," I snorted, already grabbing my coat. "Giselle, you're in charge. Don't let anyone touch anything until I'm back." The hospital was chaos. Mom pacing the waiting room, Dad stress-eating vending machine snacks, Helena's screams echoing down the hall. "Perfect timing," the nurse said as I rushed in. "She's been asking for you." Helena gripped my hand so hard I thought it would break. "I can't do this," she gasped. "Yes, you can. You're stronger than you think. You survived Russell. You can survive this. The gallery opening can wait. Some things are more important." Hours passed. Mom and Dad took turns pacing. I didn't leave Helena's side, not even when she threatened to murder me for suggesting she breathed through the pain. "Push," the doctor ordered. "One more big push," Helena screamed. I thought my hand would shatter. And then, a new cry filled the room. "It's a girl," the doctor announced. "Zuriel." Helena whispered, exhausted but smiling. Her name is Zuriel. Mom burst into tears. Dad hugged me so tight I could barely breathe. And little Zuriel, red-faced and angry at the world, screamed her arrival. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Giselle. Gallery packed. Everyone's waiting. The Thompson family is here. Go, Helena insisted. Go make things right. I kissed her forehead, then my namesake's, and rushed back to the gallery. The space was packed, every painting surrounded by viewers. The Thompson family stood before The Price of Trust, a piece showing hands reaching for money that turned to ash. Mr. Thompson's shoulders shook. Mr. Thompson? I approached carefully. I'm Zuriel. The artist? He turned, eyes red. These paintings, they tell our story. They tell all our stories, Mrs. Thompson added. Everyone rustle hurt. I led them to a private room where Ty waited with documents. The painting's already sold, I told them, along with 3 others. The money, it's not everything Russell took, but... You're trying to make it right, Mr. Thompson said, even though it wasn't your debt to pay. Family debts are shared debts, I replied, even when the family member turns out to be a criminal. The Williams family was next, then the Patels. One by one, I showed them the paintings inspired by their stories and the checks that would help rebuild their lives. Your father raised a good daughter, Mr. Williams said. The right daughter. My phone buzzed with a photo. Tiny Zuriel, swaddled in hospital blankets. I showed it to the families. Russell's daughter? Mrs. Patel asked. No, I smiled. My niece, born tonight, named after me. A new beginning. The gallery doors burst open. 2 police officers entered, followed by Russell's lawyer. Miss, the lawyer approached. My client has information about additional accounts. He's willing to reveal their locations in exchange for no deals. I cut him off. The paintings tell the truth. Let him sit with that. After the lawyer left, Giselle rushed over. Every painting sold. Over asking price. The critics are calling it a raw exploration of family betrayal and redemption. My phone buzzed again. Dad. Helena's asking for you, and your mom won't stop crying about the baby's name. Go, Giselle insisted. I'll handle the rest here. Back at the hospital, I found my family crowded into Helena's room. Mom cradling baby Zuriel, Dad taking photos, Helena beaming despite her exhaustion. How much? Helena asked. Enough to repay almost everyone, I said. The paintings, they understood. They all understood. Of course they did, Mom said, rocking the baby. You showed them the truth, like you showed us. Through art, Dad added. The career we thought wouldn't amount to anything. Baby Zuriel started fussing. Mom handed her to me, and as I held my niece for the first time, Helena spoke. She'll grow up knowing the truth, she said. About everything. About art, about family, about forgiveness. About her crazy aunt who brought down an international criminal through paintings? I teased. About her aunt who saved us all. Helena corrected. The baby gripped my finger, strong and sure, like she already knew her place in this complicated family story. My phone buzzed one last time. A news alert. Russell pleads guilty to all charges. Good, Helena said firmly. Now we can focus on what matters. Looking at my family, whole and healing, I couldn't agree more. 6 months after Russell's guilty plea, I stood in my parents' backyard, watching Mom chase little Zuriel around with a tiny paintbrush. The baby's giggles filled the air as colorful splotches decorated her smock. She's a natural, Helena said, joining me on the patio, already following in her aunt's footsteps. My phone buzzed, another message from Russell's lawyer. I deleted it without reading. Still trying to make deals? Helena asked. Every week. But his other wife in Singapore isn't being as forgiving as his lawyers hoped. Dad emerged from his study, waving papers. Just got off the phone with the bankruptcy trustee. They found another account. How much? Helena asked. Enough to fully repay the Williams family. He grinned. Their daughter can go to college after all. The doorbell rang. Mom scooped up baby Zuriel, paint and all, as Giselle and Ty arrived with boxes. The last of the gallery sales, Ty announced. Plus 3 commissions from people who saw the Family Secrets series. Speaking of secrets, Giselle added, guess who's getting married next month? The gallery owner? I laughed. To Russell's ex from Singapore? Poetic justice, Helena mused. She gets the honest man, while Russell gets 20 years in prison. Mom set baby Zuriel in her playpen and started opening boxes. These new paintings, Zuri, they're different. She was right. Gone were the dark themes of betrayal. The new pieces exploded with color and hope, a series I called Redemption. The critics are calling it your best work yet, Ty said. They say they can feel the healing in every brushstroke. Because there is healing, I replied, watching Mom make faces at the baby. In all of us. The back gate opened. 2 women entered, Mrs. Thompson and Mrs. Williams, carrying casseroles. Hope we're not interrupting, Mrs. Thompson said. We brought dinner. And wine, Mrs. Williams added. Lots of wine. What started as a support group for Russell's victims had evolved into genuine friendship. Every week they gathered here, sharing meals, sharing stories, sharing recovery. Did you tell them? Mrs. Thompson asked Dad. Just did. About the new account. Mrs. Williams burst into tears. My daughter. She can keep her scholarship. Helena hugged her. Your daughter is going to do amazing things, just like someone else I know who followed her dreams despite everything. She looked pointedly at me and I felt my cheeks flush. Speaking of dreams, Mom called from the playpen. Look what your niece made. Baby Zuriel had managed to create a surprisingly coherent pattern with her finger paints. Everyone crowded around, oohing and eyeing. Another artist in the family. Dad said proudly, this one will support from the start. My phone buzzed again, this time a text from Russell's other wife. The divorce is final. Thank you for everything. Your family is lucky to have you. You know what's funny? Helena said, reading over my shoulder. If Russell hadn't been so terrible, we might never have found our way back to each other. Sometimes the worst things lead to the best endings, Mrs. Thompson observed. Giselle started setting up dinner on the patio table. The evening sun cast long shadows across the yard as everyone took their places. Not just family, but this extended circle of healing we'd created. Before we eat, Dad stood up, raising his glass. To second chances. To truth. To art. To family, Mom added. All kinds of family. Baby Zuriel chose that moment to fling a glob of paint, hitting Dad square in the face. The table erupted in laughter. That's definitely your niece. Helena nudged me. Actually, I said, pulling out my phone to show them an email. About that, the Paris Gallery wants to feature a mother-daughter artist series. They suggested we start Baby Zuriel early. Mom dropped her fork. Paris? But that means we'd all have to go, I finished. Together this time. As a family, Dad added. Helena wiped paint off the baby's hands. What do you say, little one? Ready to show Paris what the next generation of artists can do? Baby Zuriel responded by painting a perfect handprint on Helena's shirt. I'd say that's a yes. Mrs. Williams laughed. As dinner continued, I watched my family. Mom teaching baby Zuriel to hold a proper brush, Dad discussing art investments with Ty, Helena sharing recovery stories with Russell's other victims turned friends. My phone buzzed one last time, a notification that Russell's final appeal had been denied. I deleted it without sharing. Some chapters needed to stay closed. More wine? Giselle offered. Please, I said, raising my glass to the sunset. Here's to painting new stories. Everyone clinked glasses, and baby Zuriel squealed in delight, as if she too knew. The best masterpieces come from the heart. The Parisian gallery buzzed with excitement as baby Zuriel smacked her hands against a canvas, creating explosive bursts of color. Helena stood nearby, beaming as photographers captured the moment. She's a natural, the gallery owner said in accented English, just like her aunt. My latest collection hung on the walls, Legacy of Truth. Each piece telling our family's journey from betrayal to redemption. But the centerpiece was different. A collaborative work between me, Helena, Mom, and baby Zuriel. The critics are calling it revolutionary, Ty said, showing me the early reviews on his tablet. A family healing through art. Mom appeared with more paint for the baby. Gone was her country club perfectionism, replaced by an artist's smock splattered with colors. Your father's still on the phone with the lawyers? She said. The last of Russell's accounts have been found. Everyone will be made whole. Speaking of whole, Giselle nudged me, pointing to the gallery entrance. Russell's other wife stood there, holding her son's hand. She'd flown in from Singapore for the showing, part of her own healing journey. Come. I waved them over. Baby Zuriel needs more painting partners. The two children, half-siblings unknown to each other just months ago, instantly began creating together, their laughter transcending language barriers. This is better than revenge, Russell's ex-wife said softly. This is justice. Dad finally joined us, tucking his phone away. It's done, he announced. The last settlement has been paid. Russell's empire is officially dismantled. And rebuilt into something beautiful. Helena added, watching the children paint. The gallery doors opened again. Mrs. Thompson, Mrs. Williams, and other families Russell had hurt filed in, having flown to Paris for the showing. They carried gifts, not just for baby Zuriel, but for her brother too. We're all connected now, Mrs. Williams said. Through pain, through healing, through art. My phone buzzed, a prison notification. Russell had been transferred to Singapore to face charges there. I deleted it without comment. His chapter in our story was over. Ladies and gentlemen, the gallery owner called out, the collaborative piece is complete. Everyone gathered around the massive canvas. Baby Zuriel's chaotic joy, Helena's tentative hope, Mom's emerging creativity, and my guiding artistry, all merged into something unprecedented. What's it called? Someone asked. I looked at my family, all of them, blood and chosen alike, and smiled. Second chances. Perfect. Helena whispered, hugging me. Just like that day you crashed my baby shower. I was so angry then, I admitted. So focused on revenge. And now? Mom asked. Paint streaked across her cheek. Now I understand. Sometimes you have to break something to rebuild it stronger. Baby Zuriel chose that moment to toddle over, covered head to toe in paint. Her brother followed, equally messy. They raised their tiny hands toward the canvas. One last touch? Helena suggested. Together, the children pressed their handprints onto the corner of the piece, a signature of the next generation. You know, Dad said, I always worried about leaving a legacy. Turns out it wasn't about money or status at all. It's about truth, Russell's ex-wife added. And family, Mrs. Thompson said. And art, Mom finished, surprising us all. The gallery erupted in applause as the piece was officially unveiled. Critics rushed forward, cameras flashed, but I stepped back, watching my family interact with natural ease. Helena teaching her daughter to mix colors, Mom discussing technique with aspiring artists, Dad proudly explaining the investment potential of art to anyone who'd listen, the two children creating without care for the past's complications. You did it, Giselle said, joining me. You got everything you wanted. No, I corrected her. I got something better. I got what we all needed. My phone buzzed one final time, a message from the Singapore authorities. Russell had confessed to everything, finally taking responsibility. Should we tell them? Ty asked, seeing the message. I watched baby Zuriel laugh as she created another masterpiece, her brother adding his own flourishes, their mothers chatting like old friends. No, I decided. Let's focus on this masterpiece instead. The Paris sunset streamed through the gallery windows, catching the fresh paint on the collaborative piece. In the golden light, all our broken pieces, family, trust, love, art, had transformed into something whole. "More paint," baby Zuriel demanded, her first complete sentence. Everyone laughed, and I grabbed a fresh palette. Some stories end with revenge, others with justice. But ours? Ours ended with creation, with family, with truth. And really, that was the most beautiful masterpiece of all. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead like angry wasps as I tried to piece together where I was. Everything felt wrong. The scratchy sheets, the antiseptic smell, the restraints around my wrists. My head throbbed, and fragments of memories flashed through my mind like a broken film reel. Screeching tires, shattering glass, the world spinning violently. "Good morning, Caroline. How are you feeling today?" A nurse in pale blue scrubs approached my bed, checking the monitors beside me. Her name tag read June. "Where am I?" My voice came out raspy, unfamiliar. "What happened?" "You're at Riverside Psychiatric Hospital. You were in a car accident 3 days ago. Do you remember anything about that?" The accident. Yes, I remembered driving home from the office, taking that sharp curve on Miller Road. But something else nagged at my memory. A flash of another vehicle, deliberately swerving toward me. "I shouldn't be here," I said, pulling against the restraints. "I need to call my sister Natalie. She needs to know I'm okay." June's expression shifted slightly. "Your sister is already aware of your situation. In fact, she's the one who had you admitted." The words hit me like a punch to the gut. Natalie had me committed? The same sister who'd been fighting me for control of our parents' company for the past year? That's impossible. There must be some mistake. I struggled to sit up straighter. "I'm Caroline Bell. I'm 32 years old, and I'm the COO of Bell Industries. I need to speak with someone in charge." "Dr. Matthews will be doing rounds soon," June said soothingly. "Try to stay calm. Getting agitated won't help your situation." As she turned to leave, I heard voices in the hallway. Through the small window in my door, I caught glimpses of 2 staff members talking. Natalie's instructions were very clear. Needs to be kept under observation. Substantial donation to the hospital. My blood ran cold. The accident, the admission, Natalie's involvement. It was all starting to make terrible sense. The last board meeting flashed through my mind, where I'd challenged Natalie's proposal to sell off our parents' legacy to investors. She'd been livid, threatening that I'd regret standing in her way. A young woman in casual clothes entered my room, introducing herself as Rosalind, a social worker. She sat in the chair beside my bed, notebook in hand. "How about we talk about what brought you here?" she asked, her tone gentle but professional. "What brought me here was my sister trying to get rid of me," I said flatly. "The accident wasn't an accident." Rosalind's pen paused mid-note. "That's quite an accusation. Why would your sister want to harm you?" "Because I'm the only thing standing between her and complete control of our family's company." I leaned forward, lowering my voice. "Look, I know how this sounds, but I'm not crazy. Yesterday, I was running a multi-million-dollar business. Today, I'm strapped to a hospital bed while my sister probably sits in my office, planning her next move." "Caroline, paranoid thoughts are common after trauma." "This isn't paranoia," I interrupted. "Check my records. Call my friend Stephen Marshall. He's an attorney. He'll verify everything I'm saying." A tall, lanky patient shuffled past my door, pausing to wave. His grin was friendly, almost conspiratorial. The name tag on his robe read, Van. "New arrival?" he called out cheerfully. "Welcome to the circus." "Mr. Gray, please return to your room," Rosalind said firmly, but not unkindly. As Van wandered away, I caught him mumbling something about the sister who visits too much. Rosalind turned back to me, her expression thoughtful. "I'll look into contacting Mr. Marshall. In the meantime, try to rest. The more cooperative you are, the faster we can evaluate your condition." After she left, I lay back against the pillows, my mind racing. I needed to find a way to prove what Natalie had done. But how could I gather evidence while trapped in here? And who would believe me? The crazy sister locked away in a psychiatric hospital. The sun was setting outside my window, painting the sterile room in shades of orange and purple. As I watched the colors fade, I made myself a promise. I would find a way out of here. And when I did, Natalie would learn that she'd made a terrible mistake in underestimating me. A soft knock interrupted my thoughts. June returned with my evening medication. As she handed me the paper cup of pills, her eyes met mine for a brief moment. Something in her expression made me wonder if she'd overheard more than she let on about Natalie's instructions. I swallowed the pills, already planning my next move. If Natalie thought she could bury me in here, she was about to discover just how wrong she was. The group therapy room felt like a fishbowl, with its circular arrangement of chairs and watchful eyes. I'd been here 3 days now, learning the rhythms of the ward and searching for allies. Caroline, would you like to share today? Dr. Matthews gestured toward me, his clipboard poised. Before I could respond, Van spoke up from across the circle. Doc, let's not pressure the newbie. She's still getting her bearings. He winked at me, and I noticed how his seemingly scattered demeanor masked an alert intelligence. After the session, Van caught up with me in the common room. Your sister visited again this morning, he said casually, dealing cards for solitaire. Quite the actress, isn't she? All those concerned looks and whispered conversations with the staff. My hands clenched. You've seen Natalie? 3rd time this week. Always dressed like she's heading to a board meeting. Always leaving with a satisfied smile. He laid down an ace. The walls here have ears, you know. And eyes. Rosalind appeared beside us, clipboard in hand. Caroline, do you have a moment? I'd like to discuss your treatment plan. In her office, Rosalind closed the door and lowered her voice. I've been reviewing your case. Something doesn't add up. Finally, someone who sees it. I leaned forward. Did you contact Stefan? I tried. Your sister has restricted your contacts list, but... She hesitated, then pulled out a file. I found inconsistencies in your admission papers. The toxicology report from the accident seems altered. A knock interrupted us. June entered with medication cups, but her expression was urgent. Dr. Matthews is heading this way for rounds. Rosalind quickly tucked the file away. As June set down the cups, she slipped something under my cup. A small folded note. Back in my room, I carefully unfolded it. Dig deeper. Not everyone here is on her payroll. That night, I couldn't sleep. The note burned in my mind, along with questions about who I could trust. A soft tap on my door broke through my thoughts. Midnight snack run. Van whispered, poking his head in. Want to join the adventure? In the dimly lit common room, Van introduced me to another patient, Maria, who worked in the hospital kitchen during the day. She passed us contraband cookies while Van kept watch. Your sister, Maria said between bites. She's been meeting with Dr. Matthews in his private office. Long meetings, never during normal hours. How do you know this? I deliver their coffee. They don't notice the kitchen staff. We're like furniture to them. She brushed crumbs from her robe. Yesterday, I heard them discussing your treatment duration. She wants you here long-term. My stomach churned. I need proof. Something concrete. Maybe you already have it, Van suggested. That crash report Rosalind mentioned? There might be more where that came from. The next morning, Rosalind pulled me aside during recreation time. I found something else, she said, leading me to a quiet corner. Before I show you this, you should know why I'm helping you. She rolled up her sleeve, revealing old scars. 5 years ago, I was where you are. My brother had me committed when I discovered he was embezzling from our father's estate. By the time I got out, everything was gone. How did you end up working here? Part of my recovery was becoming a social worker. I promised myself I'd never let someone else go through what I did. She pulled out another document. This is the original police report from your accident. Notice anything strange? I scanned the paper. The witness statements, they're different from what I was told. And these skid marks, they show 2 vehicles, not one. Exactly. Someone modified the official record, but they missed this preliminary report. Footsteps approached. We quickly separated as Dr. Matthews rounded the corner. Caroline, how are we feeling today? He asked, his smile not reaching his eyes. Much better, doctor. The medication is really helping. I forced myself to look compliant, docile. After he left, Van appeared as if from nowhere. Nice performance, but we need to move faster. I overheard the nurses. Your sister's pushing for a transfer to a long-term facility. We won't let that happen. Rosalind said firmly. Caroline, check under your mattress tonight. You'll find something interesting. That evening, as June did her rounds, she lingered in my doorway. Sometimes, she said quietly, the night shift leaves the records room unlocked, around 2 a.m. when they do bed checks in the East Wing. I slipped my hand under my mattress and found a small key card. My heart raced as I realized what it meant. Access to proof, to freedom, to justice. Van's words from earlier echoed in my mind. The walls have ears. But now I knew those ears weren't just listening for Natalie. They were listening for me too. And maybe, just maybe, they were on my side. The records room key card felt heavy in my pocket as I waited for 2 a.m. Van had agreed to create a distraction in the East Wing, giving me precious minutes to search for evidence. Ready? Rosalind whispered, appearing beside my bed. She was working a night shift, coordinating with June to ensure our path would be clear. Right on schedule, Van's voice echoed down the hallway. Spider, massive spider in my room, help, it's probably poisonous. As staff rushed to investigate, I slipped out of bed. June stood at her station, deliberately looking down at her paperwork as I passed. The records room lock clicked open smoothly. Rosalind guided me to a computer terminal while keeping watch at the door. Quick, she said. Search for your admission documents. My fingers flew across the keyboard. Look at this, I whispered. Natalie submitted a power of attorney form the day of the accident. The timestamp. It's before the crash even happened. Save it to this. Rosalind handed me a small USB drive. What else can you find? I dug deeper into the system, uncovering a trail of damning evidence. Emails between Natalie and Dr. Matthews discussing my treatment plan before I was even admitted. Financial transactions, modified medical reports. Caroline, Rosalind hissed. Someone's coming. I quickly closed the files and pulled the drive, but not before printing one crucial document. We barely made it into the supply closet before footsteps passed by. That was too close, Rosalind breathed. But look what I grabbed while you were searching. She pulled out a folder labeled Bell Industries Financial Records. Back in my room, we examined our findings. The folder contained copies of company documents showing massive transfers of funds just days before my accident. She's been embezzling, I said, connecting the dots. That's why she needed me out of the way. I was getting too close to the quarterly audit. A soft knock interrupted us. Van entered, looking pleased with himself. My performance was Oscar-worthy. You should have seen them trying to catch that imaginary spider. We found proof, I told him, showing the documents. But it's not enough. We need something concrete linking Natalie to the crash itself. About that, Van said, pulling out a crumpled piece of paper. Maria overheard your sister on the phone in the parking lot today. She wrote down the number. Rosalind's eyes widened. I recognize this area code. It's from the same region where your accident happened. The next morning, during my scheduled phone time, I called Stefan for the first time since my admission. Natalie had finally approved him as a contact, probably thinking it would make her look less suspicious. Caroline, thank God. I've been trying to reach you for weeks. Stefan, listen carefully. I don't have much time. I need you to investigate a phone number. After I recited the digits, he went quiet. That's interesting. Very interesting. What? What is it? That number belongs to Mike from Premier Auto Shop, the same garage where your car was taken after the crash. I'll pay him a visit. Later that day, during art therapy, Van passed me a note. Package arriving tomorrow. Special delivery. The package came hidden in my lunch tray. A small envelope containing photographs. They showed my mangled car at the garage, but more importantly, they showed clear evidence of tampering with the brake lines. This is it, Rosalind said, examining the physical proof of sabotage. There's more, June added, joining our hushed conversation. Dr. Matthews just received a large wire transfer from a shell company. I saw the notification on his computer when he left it unlocked. Let me guess, I said. The company traces back to Natalie? June nodded. I took screenshots. We spread our evidence across my bed. Financial records, admission documents, crash photos, phone records, and wire transfers. Each piece alone might not be enough, but together they told a story of calculated malice. What's our next move? Van asked. We need to get this to the board of directors, I said. But first, we need someone on the inside who can verify these documents. I might know someone, Rosalind said. Daniel, the board member who voted against your sister's last proposal. He's been asking questions about your sudden absence. As we formulated our plan, a familiar click of heels echoed down the hallway. Natalie's voice carried through the door as she spoke to Dr. Matthews. Everything needs to be finalized before next week's board meeting, she was saying. After that, we'll discuss moving her to a more permanent facility. We quickly gathered the evidence, hiding it just as my door opened. Natalie entered, her smile as artificial as ever. Hello, dear sister, she said sweetly. How are you feeling today? I matched her fake smile with one of my own. Better than you'll be feeling very soon. Are you sure about this? June asked, her hands shaking as she prepared to make the call. We were in the staff break room during her lunch break, using her personal phone. It's our best shot, I said. Daniel needs to hear this from someone inside the hospital, someone who can verify my condition. June dialed the number Rosalind had provided. After 3 rings, a deep voice answered. Mr. Daniel, this is June Hopkins from Riverside Psychiatric. I'm calling about Caroline Bell. I held my breath as she explained the situation, carefully laying out the evidence of Dr. Matthews' collusion with Natalie. Daniel's responses were brief but intense enough that I could hear them through the phone. You're saying she's being held against her will? His voice crackled through the speaker. With falsified medical records? We have proof, June replied. But we need someone on the board to help us present it. A long pause followed. Meet me tonight. The coffee shop 2 blocks from the hospital. 8 p.m. After ending the call, June turned to me. How are we going to get you out of here for the meeting? Leave that to me, Van said, appearing in the doorway. I've got a talent for creating chaos. That evening, as dinner service began, Van's plan unfolded. He started by dropping his tray, causing a commotion in the cafeteria. While staff rushed to clean up, Maria accidentally set off the smoke alarm in the kitchen. In the ensuing confusion, Rosalind escorted me through the service entrance where June waited in her car. We have 45 minutes, Rosalind said. Make them count. The coffee shop was quiet when we arrived. Daniel sat in a corner booth, his expression grave as we approached. Caroline, he said, standing. You look surprisingly well for someone supposedly having a psychotic break. Funny how that works when you're not actually crazy, I replied, sliding into the booth. June spread out copies of our evidence on the table. Daniel's face darkened as he examined each document. The board meeting is in 3 days, he said finally. Natalie's planning to have you declared mentally incompetent and transfer your voting shares to her control. Not if we can help it, June interjected. But we need your help to get Caroline out legally. Daniel studied the wire transfer records. This is definitely illegal, but we need more. Something that directly links Natalie to the crash. Stefan's working on that, I said. He's meeting with the mechanic tomorrow. Suddenly, June's phone buzzed. A text from Rosalind. Dr. Matthews doing surprise rounds. Get back now. We rushed back to the hospital, barely making it before the doctor reached my floor. I slipped into bed just as his footsteps approached. Everything okay in here? Dr. Matthews asked, peering into my room. Just fine. I smiled drowsily. The new medication really helps me sleep. The next morning, Van brought news during our daily walk in the hospital garden. A package arrived for you, he whispered. Stefan dropped it off at the front desk. Rosalind intercepted it before Natalie's people could see it. In the privacy of Rosalind's office, we opened the package. Inside was a USB drive and a handwritten confession from Mike, the mechanic, detailing how Natalie had paid him to tamper with my car's brake lines. "This is it," Rosalind breathed. "This is what we needed." A knock at the door made us jump. June entered, looking pale. "We have a problem," she said. I just overheard Dr. Matthews on the phone. "Natalie's moving up the timeline. She's transferring you to another facility tomorrow morning." "What? She can't do that." I stood up, panic rising. "She can with Dr. Matthews' approval, which she already has," June replied. "The paperwork's being processed now." Van paced the small office. "We need to move tonight. Daniel can help, right?" "He's not answering his phone," Rosalind said, trying the number again. Just then, my room phone rang. We rushed back, and I answered on speaker. "Caroline?" It was Stefan. "I've got good news and bad news. The good news is I have video evidence of Natalie meeting with the mechanic before your accident. The bad news? Daniel's been called to an emergency board meeting. Tonight. She's making her move," I realized. "She's going to push through the transfer of power before we can stop her. Not if I can help it," Stefan said firmly. "I'm on my way to the hospital now. We're getting you out of there tonight, legally or not." As I hung up, June, Rosalind, and Van looked at me expectantly. "Well?" Van asked. "What's the plan?" I took a deep breath. "We're going to crash a board meeting." Stefan's black sedan idled in the hospital's back parking lot as our plan went into motion. Van had orchestrated his biggest distraction yet. A full-blown musical performance in the day room, complete with other patients singing "Don't Stop Believin'" at the top of their lungs. "Dr. Matthews to the day room, stat." The overhead speaker crackled with urgency. "That's our cue," Rosalind said, hurrying me toward the service elevator. June had already disabled the alarm on the emergency exit. "Wait," I paused, turning to Van, who was preparing to rejoin his impromptu choir. "Thank you for everything." He grinned. "Give her hell, Caroline." The cool night air hit my face as we rushed to Stefan's car. He looked professional as ever in his suit, but his knuckles were white on the steering wheel. "The board meeting started 15 minutes ago," he said, pulling away from the hospital. "Natalie's presenting her case for emergency conservatorship right now. What about the evidence?" I asked. Stefan patted his briefcase. "All here, including this." He handed me his phone, showing a video. "Watch." The footage showed Natalie meeting the mechanic in a parking garage 3 days before my accident. The audio was crystal clear. "Make it look like an accident," Natalie's voice said. "Once she's out of the way, the company's mine." "Jesus," Rosalind whispered from the back seat. "There's more," Stefan said. "The mechanic gave us everything. Bank transfers, text messages, the whole plot." As we sped toward downtown, June called from the hospital. "Dr. Matthews just discovered Caroline's missing. Natalie's been notified." "Perfect timing," Stefan smiled grimly. "We're almost there." The Bell Industries building loomed ahead, its top floors still lit for the emergency board meeting. Security knew Stefan, waving us through without question. "14th floor," Stefan directed as we entered the elevator. "Rosalind, you have the medical records?" She patted her bag. "Everything showing the falsified diagnoses and unauthorized treatments." The elevator opened directly into a reception area. Through glass doors, we could see the boardroom. Natalie stood at the head of the table, mid-presentation. Clearly unable to make rational decisions, her voice carried through the doors. As her only living relative, I must act in Caroline's best interest. I pushed through the doors. "Is that what you call attempting to murder me?" The room erupted in chaos. Board members jumped to their feet. Natalie's face went white. "Caroline? How did you're supposed to be heavily sedated? Locked away? Sorry to disappoint." I nodded to Stefan, who began distributing copies of our evidence to each board member. "What is this?" Natalie snatched a packet, her hands shaking as she read. "Everything," I said. "The mechanic's confession, bank records, Your little garage meeting where you ordered the hit on me. Oh, and let's not forget Dr. Matthews' creative bookkeeping. Daniel stood up. I moved to suspend this meeting pending investigation of these allegations. You can't believe this. Natalie laughed desperately. She's delusional. These documents are obviously fake. Are these fake too? Rosalind stepped forward, presenting her hospital credentials and the original medical records. I'm a licensed social worker, and I can testify that Ms. Bell has been held against her will under falsified psychiatric orders. Security arrived, summoned by another board member. Natalie's eyes darted toward the exit. Don't even think about it, Stefan warned. Police are already on their way. Why, Natalie? I asked, finally facing my sister directly. Was the company really worth trying to kill me? You never understood, she spat. You were always Mom and Dad's favorite. They never thought I could run things, but I showed them, didn't I? I almost had it all. Ms. Bell, a security guard approached Natalie. Please come with us. As they led her away, she turned back one last time. I should have made sure you were dead in that crash. The room fell silent. Board members stared in shock at their packets of evidence. Daniel was already on the phone with the company lawyers. Caroline, Stefan touched my arm. The police will want to take your statement. I nodded, suddenly exhausted. Rosalind squeezed my hand supportively. What happens now? She asked, looking around the boardroom. My boardroom. I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. Now? Now we rebuild. But first, I need to make some calls, starting with the hospital board about a certain Dr. Matthews. June texted. Dr. Matthews just got a visit from the medical board. Van's leading the whole ward in Nana. Hey, goodbye. I couldn't help but smile. My makeshift family had come through. They'd believed in me when no one else would. As police officers entered the boardroom, I stood tall, ready to tell my story. Not as a victim, but as a survivor. Natalie had tried to bury me, not realizing I was a seed. And now, I was finally breaking through to the light. The police station buzzed with activity as I finished giving my statement. Detective Morris closed his notebook and leaned back in his chair. So, Dr. Matthews was receiving payments through a shell company registered in your sister's name? He asked. Yes, and there's more. I pulled out the USB drive. The hospital's financial records show irregular payments dating back months before my accident. Stefan entered the interview room with fresh coffee. The DA's office is moving quickly. They've already frozen Natalie's accounts and seized documents from her home. Ms. Bell, Detective Morris said, we'll need you to testify before a grand jury next week. Your sister's looking at attempted murder, conspiracy, fraud. A knock interrupted us. Rosalind poked her head in. Sorry, but you need to see this. She held up her phone, showing a news website. The headline read, Bell Industries Scandal, CEO arrested in murder plot against sister. The press is outside, Stefan warned. Along with some board members demanding answers, I stood up, straightening my borrowed blazer. Then let's give them answers. The station's steps were crowded with reporters and cameras. Daniel waited at the bottom, looking concerned. The shareholders are panicking, he said quietly. We need to show stability. Fast. I approached the microphones, camera lights blinding me. I'll take questions. Ms. Bell, is it true your sister tried to have you killed? What about the psychiatric hospital cover-up? Will you resume control of Bell Industries? I held up my hand for silence. 3 weeks ago, I was nearly killed in what appeared to be a car accident. Today, we have proof it was a deliberate attempt on my life, orchestrated by my sister, Natalie Bell. But this isn't just about family betrayal. It's about corporate corruption that nearly destroyed a company our parents built from nothing. The cameras clicked frantically as I continued. Effective immediately, I'm resuming my position as COO. Our first priority will be a complete audit of all company transactions during my absence. Bell Industries has always stood for integrity, and that won't change. Back inside, June called with updates from the hospital. Dr. Matthews is under investigation by the medical board. Half the staff has come forward with statements about suspicious practices. How's Van doing? I asked, leading a patient rebellion. They're demanding better food in the cafeteria now that the corrupt administration is gone. I laughed, then turned serious. June, I want to offer you a job. Head of HR at Bell Industries. We need someone with your integrity. There was a pause. Are you sure? Absolutely. Rosalind, too, if she wants it. Corporate Ethics Compliance Officer. Rosalind, who'd been listening, smiled. Count me in. Stefan interrupted with urgent news. Natalie's asking to see you. The holding cell was gray and cold. Natalie sat in an orange jumpsuit, her perfect makeup gone, her confidence shattered. Come to gloat? She asked as I sat across from her. No, I came to understand why. She laughed bitterly. You really don't know? Every time Mom and Dad praised your work, every time they chose you for important projects, I was just the backup plan. The spare. That's not true, and you know it. They loved us both. Love doesn't pay bills or build empires. She leaned forward. I had to prove I could do it better than you. I had to show them they were wrong about me. They're dead, Natalie. You were trying to prove something to ghosts. And now I've lost everything. Her voice cracked. The company, my freedom, my sister. I stood up. You lost me the moment you decided to kill me. Walking out, I found Stefan waiting. The board wants to meet tomorrow morning. Early damage control. Schedule it for 9. And Stefan? Thank you for believing me when everyone thought I was crazy. Hey, what are friends for? He smiled. Besides, you do the same for me. That evening, we gathered at my apartment. Stefan, Rosalind, June, and Van, now officially discharged. Pizza boxes littered the coffee table as we discussed the future. To Caroline. Van raised his soda can. Who proved that sometimes the crazy ones are the sanest of all? To family, I corrected, looking at each of them. The ones we choose. My phone buzzed with a text from Daniel. Board meeting prep tomorrow, 8 a.m. Also, PR wants to discuss company rebranding. I typed back, I'll be there, with my team. Rosalind caught my eye. Ready to face tomorrow? Looking around at my newfound family, I felt stronger than ever. More than ready. It's time to rebuild. Not just the company, but everything. The city lights twinkled outside my window, and for the first time since the accident, I felt truly free. Natalie had tried to write my ending, but instead, she'd only managed to give me a new beginning. The boardroom felt different this morning. Maybe it was the fresh flowers June had arranged, or maybe it was simply because I was finally sitting in my rightful place at the head of the table. The shareholders' meeting will begin in 5 minutes, Rosalind announced, tablet in hand. Press is already gathering in the lobby. Are you ready for this? Stefan asked, adjusting his tie. It's going to be intense. Before I could answer, Daniel rushed in. You need to see this. Natalie's lawyer just released a statement. He handed me his phone. The statement claimed I had fabricated evidence, manipulated vulnerable hospital staff, and orchestrated a hostile takeover of the company. She's desperate, Stefan said. The evidence is solid. The boardroom began filling with shareholders and board members. Some avoided my gaze, while others nodded respectfully. These were the same people who'd believed Natalie's lies about my mental state. Let's begin. I stood, commanding the room's attention. I know many of you have questions about recent events. Questions? A senior shareholder interrupted. You disappeared for weeks, then returned with wild accusations about your sister. Our stock has dropped 15%. 20%, actually, I corrected, clicking to the first slide of my presentation. Which is exactly what Natalie planned. Look at these trading records. The screen showed suspicious stock movements in offshore accounts. She was shorting our own company's stock, I explained, betting on its failure while simultaneously orchestrating my removal. But that's not all. For the next hour, I laid out everything. The embezzlement, the murder attempt, the hospital conspiracy. With each revelation, the room grew more tense. This is the security footage from the garage where my brake lines were tampered with. I played the video. And here are the corresponding bank transfers from Natalie's shell company. My God, someone whispered. But today isn't about dwelling on betrayal, I continued. It's about moving forward. June? June stepped forward, presenting our new corporate ethics initiative. We're implementing transparent oversight measures, including an independent ethics board. And I'll be heading that initiative, Rosalind added, with direct reporting lines to prevent future abuse of power. The room buzzed with discussion. Daniel stood up. I moved to formally reinstate Caroline as COO and approve these new measures. Second, another board member quickly added. The vote was unanimous. As the meeting concluded, my phone buzzed. Detective Morris's message read, Natalie's talking. Dr. Matthews, too. They're both looking at serious time. The press conference that followed was a circus. Cameras flashed as I approached the podium outside Bell Industries headquarters. Ms. Bell, how does it feel to return to your position? What message do you have for your sister? Will the company recover? Bell Industries was built on trust, I began. Trust between partners, employees, and customers. My sister betrayed that trust, but she didn't destroy it. Today, we're not just rebuilding a company, we're reinforcing its foundation. Stefan stepped up beside me. Ms. Bell will now announce several key appointments to the company's new ethics and oversight board. I introduced June and Rosalind to the press, explaining their roles in uncovering the conspiracy. Van watched from the sidelines, giving me a thumbs up. Back in my office, my real office, I found a photo of my parents on the desk. They were smiling at the building's groundbreaking ceremony decades ago. They'd be proud, Daniel said from the doorway. Not just of saving the company, but of how you did it. With help, I replied. I couldn't have done this alone. Speaking of help, Stefan entered with a stack of papers. The DA wants to meet tomorrow about Natalie's plea deal. No deals, I said firmly. She needs to face the consequences. June brought in coffee and sat down. The hospital board called. They're cleaning house. 3 more administrators were involved in similar schemes with other patients. We should help them, I decided. Set up a foundation for patients who've been wrongfully committed. Rosalind smiled. Already working on it. Van's offered to be our first success story spokesperson. Looking around at my team, my family, I felt a surge of determination. Natalie had tried to destroy me using the company our parents built, but instead, she'd helped me make it stronger. All right. I picked up a marker and approached the whiteboard. Let's talk about tomorrow. We have a company to rebuild. As we planned late into the evening, the city lights came on outside my office window. Somewhere in a jail cell, Natalie was facing the darkness she'd created. But here, surrounded by trust and truth, I was finally stepping into the light. The courthouse steps were crowded as I made my way inside. Today was Natalie's sentencing, and the media circus had reached its peak. Ready? Stefan asked, holding the door. Inside, the courtroom filled quickly. June, Rosalind, and Van sat directly behind me. Daniel joined us moments later, sliding into the row. The board sends their support, he whispered, though they're glad to avoid the media attention. The bailiff called for order as Natalie was led in. She wore prison orange instead of her usual designer suits, but her head was held high. Our eyes met briefly before she looked away. All rise, the bailiff announced. The Honorable Judge Martinez presiding. The judge reviewed the charges: attempted murder, conspiracy, fraud, embezzlement. Natalie had pleaded guilty to avoid a trial, hoping for leniency. Before I pass sentence, Judge Martinez said, would the victim like to make a statement? I stood, approaching the podium. The speech I'd prepared suddenly felt wrong. Instead, I spoke from the heart. Your Honor, my sister tried to kill me. She locked me away, tried to steal my sanity along with my company, and nearly succeeded. But this isn't just about me. I turned to face Natalie directly. While investigating her crimes, we discovered 7 other patients at Riverside Psychiatric who were wrongfully committed through similar schemes. 7 lives destroyed by greed and corruption. The company our parents built was meant to help people, not destroy them. Natalie's facade cracked slightly. I don't want vengeance, Your Honor. I want justice, not just for me, but for everyone she and Dr. Matthews victimized. And I want my sister to understand that real strength isn't about power or control. It's about doing what's right, even when it's hard. The judge nodded thoughtfully. Ms. Natalie Bell, please rise. Natalie stood, her hands shaking slightly. The court sentences you to 15 years in federal prison. Additionally, you are ordered to pay restitution to your victims and forfeit all claims to Bell Industries assets. As Natalie was led away, she paused near me. I'm sorry, she whispered. I know it doesn't matter, but I am. You're right, I replied. It doesn't matter, but maybe someday it will. Outside, reporters clamored for statements. Stefan handled them while I slipped away with my team to the cafe where we'd first plotted my escape from Riverside. To justice, Van raised his coffee cup, and to found family. Speaking of family, June said, the foundation approved its first round of grants today. 5 former Riverside patients are getting legal aid to clear their records. Make it 10, I decided. Use my personal funds if needed. Rosalind checked her phone. The hospital reform bill we backed just passed the state legislature. Mandatory oversight of all involuntary commitments. And Bell Industries stock hit a new high, Daniel added. Turns out integrity is good for business. That reminds me. Stefan pulled out some papers. The board approved your proposal. Bell Industries is officially launching its mental health advocacy division. I signed the documents, then looked around the table. None of this would have happened without you all. You risked everything to help me when I had nothing. That's not true, Van grinned. You had a killer story and the stubbornness to prove it. Plus, June added, taking down corrupt executives is surprisingly fun. My phone buzzed. Detective Morris sending an update. Dr. Matthews had received 12 years and was cooperating in investigations of similar schemes at other hospitals. The system's changing, Rosalind noted. Slowly, but it's changing. Because we changed it, I said. Together. Back at the office, I found a letter on my desk. It was from my parents' old lawyer, with a note I'd never seen before. Dear Caroline, it read, if you're reading this, something has happened to challenge your control of the company. Your father and I always knew Natalie's ambition might overwhelm her judgment. But we also knew you had the strength to weather any storm. The company isn't just about profit, it's about people. Never forget that. Love, Mom. I pinned the note to my bulletin board, right next to the photo of my new family at the foundation's launch party. Below it hung the key card from Riverside, a reminder of where this journey began. Stefan appeared in my doorway. Emergency board meeting? No. I smiled. Family dinner. The board can wait until tomorrow. As we left the office, the setting sun painted the city gold. Somewhere, Natalie was beginning her sentence, facing the consequences of her choices. But here, surrounded by the family I'd found and the purpose I'd discovered, I was exactly where I needed to be. Not just surviving, but thriving. Not just rebuilding, but creating something better. And most importantly, not alone. Never alone again.
My name is Doris, and I have been married to Brian for 4 years. I work as a chef at a nearby restaurant, a job I deeply love. Cooking has been my passion since childhood, and I dream of becoming a renowned chef one day. Brian is employed as a sales manager at a small firm. Overall, our life together is quite fulfilling. Like any couple, we experience our fair share of challenges, but we've always managed to navigate through them. However, there's one persistent issue that troubles me. Brian's mother, Judy. Judy works as a social worker, focusing on child safety assessments for the local government. From the beginning, Judy has made it quite clear that she disapproves of me. Nothing I do seems to meet her standards, and she constantly finds reasons to criticize me, be it my culinary skills, my appearance, or even trivial things like how I breathe. It's been incredibly draining. What makes it worse is Brian's reluctance to defend me. He remains silent while his mother criticizes me, which is disheartening. One evening, While we were relaxing in our living room after dinner with the television humming in the background, I decided it was time to address the issue. "Brian," I began, attempting to maintain a composed tone, "don't you think your mom is a bit harsh sometimes?" Brian's expression turned stern as he replied, "Look, Doris, you don't understand. Mom has always been this way. After Dad left, she raised my brother and me on her own. She had to be strict." He continued, "She used to tell us that if we misbehaved, she'd give us away to other parents. It scared us, but it kept us in line." I was shocked by his acceptance of her extreme methods. "That's terrible, Brian. You know that's not normal, right?" He shrugged, indicating resignation. "It's just how things were. Mom did her best." It was clear then that changing Brian's view on this was unlikely. His mother's influence was deeply ingrained. Adding to the complexity was the constant comparison to Marilyn, my sister-in-law, who was married to Brian's elder brother, Gerald. In Judy's eyes, Marilyn was flawless, intelligent, skilled, beautiful, and always well-behaved, the epitome of a perfect daughter-in-law, unlike me. "Oh, Doris," Judy would say during family gatherings, "did you hear about Marilyn's latest promotion at work? Isn't that wonderful?" I'd force a smile, my frustration mounting. "That's great, Marilyn." "Congratulations," I'd say, while Marilyn humbly accepted the praise. The hardest part of these gatherings was not just the comparisons, but also Judy's obsession with grandchildren. She constantly prodded us about starting a family. "So, Doris," she would begin, her gaze piercing, "when are you and Brian planning to start a family? You're not getting any younger, you know." I'd take a deep breath, striving to remain calm. "We're focusing on our careers right now, Judy. Children will come when we're ready." Judy would dismissively retort, "Career? Cooking isn't a career, dear. It's a hobby. A real woman knows her place is at home, raising children." Each word from her was like fuel to a fire within me, a reminder of the battle I faced within my own family. But I kept my calm, knowing that arguing wouldn't change anything. Brian, as usual, remained silent, aimlessly pushing food around on his plate. Interestingly, Judy never pestered Marilyn about having children. One day, Brian inadvertently revealed that Gerald, his brother, was infertile, a closely guarded family secret. Judy would prefer to have no grandchildren at all than admit that her beloved firstborn had any shortcomings. Over time, Judy's control over her sons intensified. She demanded their help with everything, a burden that also fell on the daughters-in-law. Gerald and Marilyn, living close by, managed to meet Judy's demands more easily. In contrast, Brian and I, living farther away and working long hours, couldn't visit as often as Judy would have liked, and she never hesitated to express her displeasure. "I might as well be dead for all you two care," she would dramatize over the phone. "My son and his wife are too busy to visit their poor widowed mother." I'd roll my eyes, having heard this guilt trip so many times I could recite it by heart. "Sorry, Judy," I'd reply, not feeling sorry in the slightest. "We'll try to visit more often." But it was never enough. In Judy's eyes, we should be at her beck and call 24/7, and naturally, she blamed me for keeping Brian away from his family duties. As the months passed, I immersed myself deeper into my work. The kitchen became my refuge, the only place I felt genuinely appreciated and respected. Chef Justin, my mentor, encouraged me to hone my skills and creativity. "You have a gift, Doris," he'd say, tasting one of my dishes. "Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." His encouragement was a soothing balm to my worn-down self-esteem. In the kitchen, I wasn't the disappointing daughter-in-law or the wife failing to provide grandchildren. I was Doris, the talented chef with a promising future. The day everything began to unravel was just another busy day. I was prepping for the dinner rush when my phone buzzed.
It was Judy.
I sighed internally but answered. "Hello, Judy. What can I do for you?" Her voice came through, sharp and demanding. "Doris, I need you to come to the mall and pick me up. Marilyn and I have been shopping, and we have too many bags for a taxi." I glanced at the clock. It was peak traffic time, and the mall was on the other side of town. "Judy, I'm at work. I can't just leave." But she cut me off. "Oh, So your job is more important than family, I see. I suppose I'll just have to struggle with all these bags myself. At my age, I could throw my back out, but don't you worry about that. I closed my eyes, counting to 12 in my head. Fine, Judy. I'll be there as soon as I can. The traffic was a nightmare. I sat in gridlock for over an hour, my frustration building with every minute. By the time I finally reached the mall, I was incredibly stressed and irritable. I circled the parking lot, searching for Judy and Marilyn, but they were nowhere to be seen. I called Judy's phone, no answer. I tried Marilyn, nothing. After my third attempt, Judy picked up. Where are you? I asked, trying to keep the annoyance out of my voice. Oh, Doris, Judy replied, her tone oozing with feigned sweetness. We got tired of waiting, so we took a taxi home. I thought Marilyn had texted you, she said before I could even respond. And with that, she hung up. I sat in my car, staring at my phone in disbelief. Then I screamed. I screamed until my throat was raw, releasing all the frustration and anger I'd suppressed over the years. When I got home, Brian was already there. Still seething from the day's events, I burst in and blurted out, "Your mother," but Brian interrupted me. I know. Mom told me what happened. Why didn't you get there faster? She had to take a taxi because of you? I stared at him, dumbfounded. Are you kidding me? I left work early and sat in traffic for hours, and this is my fault. Brian just shrugged. You know how Mom is with waiting. You should have planned better. The following weeks were a blur of work and tense silences. Brian and I barely spoke, the rift between us widening with each day. Then one evening, as I was closing up the kitchen, my phone rang. It was Judy. Tempted to ignore it, I answered anyway, bracing myself. Hello, Judy. Doris, dear, she began, her voice dripping with feigned sweetness. I need you to do me a favor. It's Marilyn's birthday tomorrow. I'm throwing her a small party at my house. I need you to deliver food from your restaurant. Only the most expensive dishes, mind you, for 9 people. I felt my blood pressure rise. Judy, that's going to be extremely expensive. I can't just... Oh, don't be so stingy, she interrupted. It's for family, and of course, you'll be paying for it. Consider it your gift to Marilyn. I nearly dropped the phone. You want me to pay for a gourmet meal for 9 people, Judy? That's insane. I can't afford that. She clucked disapprovingly. Well, if you're going to be difficult about it, I suppose you could always cook the meal yourself and bring it over. That's what a real chef would do, isn't it? I closed my eyes, counting to 12 in my head. Judy, I work full-time. I don't have the energy to cook a gourmet meal for 9 people after full shift. I see, she said, her voice turning cold. Well, I'll let Brian know how little you care about his family. And with that, she hung up. Standing there, phone in hand, I felt a mixture of rage and disbelief. When I got home, Brian was waiting, his expression stormy. Mom called, he said bluntly. Why are you being so difficult about Marilyn's birthday? Mom's right. You don't care about anyone but yourself. In the end, I caved. I couldn't face another argument, another night of cold silence. The next day, I reluctantly placed the order at the restaurant, wincing as I handed over my credit card. It was a huge chunk of my savings, but I felt I had no choice. The evening of the party, Brian and I arrived at Judy's house. I was exhausted from a long day at work, but I managed to smile as we entered. Judy greeted us at the door, all smiles for Brian and barely acknowledging me. Oh, you're here. Come in, come in. Everyone's already started eating. We walked into the dining room, and I stopped short. The table was laden with food, but it wasn't the dishes I had ordered from the restaurant. Instead, there was an array of homemade dishes that looked considerably less sophisticated. I stood there, bewildered, as I asked, "What's going on? Where's the food from the restaurants?" Marilyn, looking smug, glanced up from her plate. Oh, didn't Mom tell you? I decided I wanted to cook for my birthday. Isn't that right, Mom? Judy beamed at her, nodding. Yes, and everything is just delicious. Marilyn's such a talented cook. Speechless, I felt Brian nudge me, urging, "Come on, let's sit down." Don't make a scene. Numbly, I took my seat while Brian engaged happily with everyone, seemingly unaware of my discomfort. Throughout the evening, I caught Judy glancing at me with a satisfied smirk on her face. By the time we left, I felt utterly emotionally drained. In the car on the way home, I turned to Brian. Did you know about this? That Marilyn was going to cook? He shrugged. Mom might have mentioned it. What's the big deal? I was stunned. The big deal is that I spent a fortune on food that's now going to waste, Brian. And your mother knew that when she asked me to order it. He dismissed my concerns. You're overreacting. It was just a misunderstanding. But I knew it was no misunderstanding. It was another of Judy's calculated moves, another power play, and once again, I was on the losing end. The tension at home grew unbearable over the next couple of months. Brian and I barely spoke, and when we did, it usually ended in an argument. I threw myself into my work at the restaurant with desperate energy. One evening, after a long shift, Brian approached me, surprisingly excited. Doris, he said, his eyes shining, I need your help with something important. Curious despite myself, I raised an eyebrow. What is it? It's Mom's birthday next month, he explained, and I want to do something really special for her. Something that'll outshine Gerald's gift. Got any ideas? I was about to dismiss the idea when suddenly an opportunity came to mind. I recalled Chef Justin mentioning an upcoming event at the restaurant. Actually, I began slowly. On your mom's birthday, there's going to be a special event at the restaurant. They're filming an episode of that cooking show she loves. You know, the one with that presenter she adores. Brian's eyes widened. No way. Are you serious? I nodded, feeling a spark of excitement despite myself. Yeah, we could book a table for that night. If we're lucky, we might even get to be part of the filming. It's happening just next to the main dining area. Brian's face lit up. Doris, that's perfect. Mom would absolutely love that. She's always wanted to meet that presenter. For a moment, I felt a warm glow of satisfaction. It was nice to see Brian so happy and to be the source of that happiness for once. We should keep it a surprise, I suggested, getting caught up in the moment. Can you imagine her face when she realizes where she is and what's happening? Brian nodded enthusiastically. Absolutely. We'll keep it completely under wraps. She won't suspect a thing. We spent the next hour planning the details. I would book the table and handle everything at the restaurant, while Brian would ensure Judy arrived without spoiling the surprise. The next day, I spoke to Chef Justin about the reservation and explained the situation. He was more than happy to assist, even offering us one of the best tables in the house. The day of Judy's birthday arrived, and I woke up feeling a mixture of excitement and anticipation. As I prepared to leave for the evening, Brian approached me, his expression unreadable. I'll pick up Mom myself, he declared, avoiding my gaze. You can head to the restaurant first. We'll meet you there. His abrupt suggestion took me by surprise, but I agreed and asked when I should arrive. Just be there at the reservation time, he replied hastily, leaving much earlier than necessary. I assumed he had some last-minute errands. When I reached the restaurant at the designated time, my heart dropped. Through the window, I saw that the dining room was bustling. Our family and several guests were already gathered at the largest table, immersed in lively conversation. It seemed they had been enjoying themselves for quite some time. I walked in hesitantly, noticing that my usual seat next to Brian was taken by one of Judy's friends. Standing there, I felt invisible. Hello, everyone, I managed to say, my voice shaky. The group barely acknowledged me, absorbed in their talks. Judy was the only one who looked my way, giving me a smug smile before turning back to her conversation. I felt a knot in my stomach as I approached Brian, filled with confusion and hurt. What's happening? I asked quietly. Brian turned to me, his face a mix of guilt and defiance. Doris, we just wanted a peaceful celebration for Mom's birthday, without any drama, he explained. Judy interjected with a saccharine tone. Oh, Doris, didn't Brian tell you? We thought a small family gathering would be best, just the essential people. Her words stung, and I felt my cheeks flush with humiliation. As if on cue, a camera crew in the corner continued filming. Unfazed, Judy went on. It's probably for the best that you haven't had kids, Doris. If you did, I'd ensure they were taken away and given to someone more capable, like Marilyn here. She gestured to Brian's sister-in-law, who laughed and nodded. The guests seemed to agree with Judy, nodding and exchanging looks of mockery as she disparaged my ability to balance a career and a family. I stood frozen, overwhelmed by the cruelty of her words. Finally, I whispered, "I'm not hungry," and turned to leave. Laughter erupted behind me, echoing hauntingly as I exited the restaurant. Back home, the night's events replayed in my mind. Without thinking, I began packing a suitcase. I couldn't stay any longer. Just as I zipped it closed, my phone rang. It was Frank, the restaurant manager. Hesitantly, I answered. I hesitated, but curiosity got the better of me, and I answered the phone. Frank's voice came through urgently. "You should see what's happening on the social media page of that cooking show that was filmed at the restaurant today," he said. With a sense of dread mixed with curiosity, I opened my laptop and navigated to the page. What I found left me stunned. There, displayed prominently, was a video of Judy, but not the composed Judy everyone was used to. This video showed Judy at her worst, venomously boasting about how she manipulated her position to wrongly separate children from their families. The video was viral, with hundreds of thousands of views, and the comments were ablaze with outrage. "She should be fired immediately," one read. "How can someone so cruel be allowed to work with children?" Another commented, "Poor Doris, dealing with such a monster-in-law." Before I fully realized what I was doing, I was back in my car, speeding towards the restaurant. Bursting through the doors, my heart raced as I spotted Judy, still there, laughing with the show's host. Her smile faltered into a scowl as she saw me. "Why are you back?" she snapped, annoyance clear in her voice. "Haven't you embarrassed yourself enough tonight?" Wordlessly, I held up my phone, showing her the incriminating video. Watching her face lose color was strangely satisfying as she listened to her own harsh words echoing back at her. "What is this?" she gasped, then turned to the presenter, her voice rising in panic. "You must take this down now." "I'll sue." The presenter chuckled. "I could take it down, but it's already been shared thousands of times." "You're viral, Judy. Congratulations on your newfound fame." Enraged, Judy began smashing plates from the table to the floor, screaming threats. "I'll ruin all of you." The presenter remained calm, glancing at the camera. "I wouldn't do that if I were you. We're still live. Your tantrum is broadcasting nationwide." Judy stopped, her face a mask of horror. Around her, the other guests sat in stunned silence, as if wishing to disappear. Frank approached, his expression stern. "I'm going to have to ask you all to leave," he told Judy and her group, "or I'll call the police." As Judy and her entourage vanished into the night, the presenter turned to me, offering a sympathetic smile. "Doris, isn't it? Would you mind sharing your story on camera? I think our viewers would love to hear your side." I paused, then nodded. As the camera focused on me, I took a deep breath. This was my moment to set the record straight, to reclaim my narrative. In the days that followed, the fallout from Judy's public breakdown was swift and brutal. She was fired from her job in disgrace, her years of manipulation catching up to her. The power she had wielded so destructively was stripped away, along with any respect she had commanded. Meanwhile, I took decisive action. The very next day, I filed for divorce. Brian came to me, remorseful and tearful, begging for forgiveness. "Doris, please," he pleaded, "I made a terrible mistake. We can fix this." I promised to stand up to her, to be better. Looking at him, I felt a mix of pity and determination. "It's too late, Brian. You had years to stand by me, to really be my partner." After choosing his mother over me consistently, the divorce unfolded more swiftly than I had expected. We had little to dispute over, and Brian, possibly driven by remorse, didn't challenge any part of the process. Thus, for years of marriage evaporated into a mere signature on a document. But as this chapter ended, an unexpected new one began to unfold in ways I hadn't foreseen. Chef Justin, a week after the upheaval at the restaurant, approached me with a warm, enthusiastic smile. "Doris," he began, "I have some exciting news. The owner was really impressed with how you handled everything. We want to offer you the position of head chef at our new downtown location." This was just the beginning. Television producers soon began calling, initially inviting me to cook on their shows, but quickly expanding the invitations to include discussions about my experiences, emphasizing themes like self-respect and the significance of familial bonds. Inspired by these opportunities, I started a YouTube channel where I shared recipes intertwined with life advice. The comments section burgeoned with gratitude from viewers who found strength in my words, fueling their journeys to self-advocacy. The impact was profound and far-reaching. One morning, my agent, yes, I now had one, brought another thrilling opportunity: offers to host my cable TV show. The notion was almost surreal. My TV show was something I had never dared to dream of. Regarding my former in-laws, the grapevine buzzed with news. Judy's grip over her sons was diminishing. Marilyn, my former sister-in-law and once Judy's favored, now openly expressed disdain for her. It's intriguing how quickly perceptions change once someone's true colors are revealed. People often asked if I harbored any regrets or felt sympathy for them. Honestly, I didn't. They had made their choices just as I had made mine. The key difference was that I could face myself in the mirror each morning and feel genuinely proud of who I had become, living a life defined by integrity and empowerment. I'm Alexa, a 33-year-old remote worker currently living at my parents' home, where I manage my daily responsibilities. I'm single at the moment, and my family includes my parents and my brother, who married last year. I had always thought that my brother and his wife, Romina, were enjoying marital bliss, but recently, Romina has been visiting us more often. This house is her in-laws, and I wondered if she might feel awkward on her initial visits. However, she seemed quite at ease and didn't display any signs of nervousness, unlike me, who is often overwhelmed by her beauty and confident presence. Romina has a way of making me feel like a sister to her, engaging in open and frank conversations. One day, she casually asked me why I didn't have a boyfriend, questioning if I felt uncomfortable around men. I explained that my remote job doesn't allow many opportunities for social interactions, making it tough to meet new people or attend social gatherings. Romina listened intently and sympathized with the challenge of finding opportunities. She kindly offered to help, suggesting tips on makeup and fashion to help boost my confidence. Romina's nurturing approach makes me feel genuinely cared for, almost as if she were my actual sister. She encouraged me to step out of my comfort zone, enhance my style, and be ready to make a great impression when the right person comes along. I'm truly thankful for her support and the proactive advice she offers. At home, I often wear a bandana to keep my hair out of my face while working, a simple yet practical choice for concentration. Romina's words made me think about the basics of personal appeal and the small changes I could make to enhance my presence, even in my remote work setting. Since I mostly stay at home, I rarely wear makeup, focusing instead on keeping my skin moisturized. There's seldom a need to dress up, so comfortable loungewear is my usual attire at home. It's hard to imagine stepping outside dressed like this, and since Romina mostly sees me in this casual setup, she might not have a clear idea of how I prepare for more formal occasions. In fact, at my brother's wedding and other significant family events, I've always made sure to wear proper makeup and dress appropriately. Yet it seems that Romina has overlooked these efforts. One day, Romina excitedly suggested we go through my wardrobe. "Let's start by checking out your closet, Alexa," she declared, and without waiting, she entered my room and started to examine my closet meticulously. I hesitated for a moment, wondering if I should stop her, but recognizing her good intentions, I decided to watch. I don't have a vast collection of clothes, but I am choosy about what I buy, ensuring everything reflects my personal style. My favorite brands are neatly organized, which seemed to surprise Romina. "Wow, I didn't expect you to have such nice clothes, and your makeup items are top-notch too," she remarked, evidently impressed. She had always thought the brands I favored were too pricey for her. As Romina continued to explore, she commented on each piece of clothing and examined my makeup case. After about an hour, feeling that her enthusiasm might be a bit much, I gently interjected. "Romina, it's about time," I suggested. Snapped back to the present by my words, she apologized. "Oh, I got carried away looking through your things." She concluded that there was no need for new purchases. Romina had even taken out all my winter clothes to inspect them, leaving them scattered about, a bit of a mess, which she didn't seem inclined to tidy. "No, I carefully select my makeup products myself," I explained, a bit defensively. "My skin is sensitive, so I've tried various brands and narrowed it down to these specific items." Romina looked surprised and mentioned, "With such high-quality makeup at your disposal, it seems you don't often go out and thus don't use it much, do you?" I nodded, admitting, "Yes, honestly, I hardly ever wear makeup unless there's a special occasion. I only apply it when absolutely necessary." As I replied that I only wear makeup when absolutely necessary, Romina seemed dissatisfied. She assertively declared, "That won't do. Next time I see you, I'll teach you some makeup techniques." As Romina sifted through my closet and evening approached, she finally decided it was time to head home. I often wondered about the frequency of her visits. Could it be that things were not going well between her and my brother? This thought troubled me. Why would she come to our house so often if her relationship with my brother was faltering? I couldn't quite pin down Romina's motives and found myself puzzled. Meanwhile, my parents embraced her frequent visits, treating her as a beloved family member, which sharply contrasted with my bewildered reception. "Isn't it nice for Alexa to have a big sister? We're looking forward to Romina giving you makeup lessons next time," they remarked joyfully. They added a note of caution, "But it's not good for Alexa to rely too much on Romina." I nodded in agreement, harboring mixed feelings internally. Truth be told, I had never actively sought makeup advice from Romina. My life is incredibly busy, and prioritizing romance or extensive beauty routines isn't feasible. Romina's offer to teach me makeup techniques was her own initiative, not a request from me. From past experiences, I often find myself caught up in Romina's whirlwind of spontaneous ideas. While my parents interpret this as her being supportive, I sometimes wish she would be more mindful of my need for personal space, especially since I'm focused on working from home. Yet, I find it hard to outright reject her suggestions because they are well-intentioned, and discussing this with my parents, who are very welcoming of her, feels daunting. With these heavy thoughts, I returned to my room and began reorganizing the winter clothes that Romina had left scattered around. As I folded and stored each item, a sudden concern struck me. My favorite sweater was missing. "Wait, where's my favorite sweater?" I muttered to myself, a sense of annoyance creeping in. I had no recollection of ever discarding that sweater, and its absence now felt strangely significant amidst the day's chaotic reflections. Whenever I update my wardrobe by purchasing new clothes, I make it a point to responsibly part with the ones I no longer need. This way, I maintain a clear inventory of my closet contents. I distinctly remembered not having disposed of my favorite winter garment, a piece I had bought just last year and which still looked almost new. I had diligently stored it, knowing exactly where each item belonged. The last time my closet had been accessed was earlier today when Romina was rummaging through my room. During her visit, I stepped out to the living room to ask my parents to prepare some warm tea and snacks for her, leaving her alone in my room for a brief period. I noticed she had brought her bag into my room, which might explain her ability to conceal anything unobserved. However, outright accusing Romina of theft seemed premature and potentially unbelievable without concrete proof, despite my suspicions. Feeling somewhat powerless, but determined not to be victimized again, I resolved to take preventive measures. A month after the incident, anticipating Romina's next visit, I invested in a discreet security camera. True to form, Romina dropped by and enthusiastically announced she was conducting a makeup class. She dived into my closet, handling my beloved makeup tools, and soon had me seated on the carpet for a lesson with her own cosmetics collection. As I had no plans to leave the house that day, I went to wash off the makeup shortly after she finished. During this time, Romina packed up, saying she was ready to leave. I called out to her, "I've prepared some tea and snacks in the living room. Please have some before you go," ensuring she actually left before I moved to my computer. This precaution was because of the new camera I had hidden in the room to prevent further intrusions or losses. Upon reviewing the camera footage, my heart sank as I watched Romina discreetly place several makeup items, including some rarely used nail polishes, into her bag. It seemed she thought these small thefts would go unnoticed. Disheartened and in disbelief, I transferred the footage to my smartphone for safekeeping and future evidence. I then went to the living room to discuss what had transpired with my family. Coincidentally, my brother was there, and as soon as he saw me, he approached with a concerned expression. Alexa, it's been a while. I heard you got a makeup lesson from Romina today. Please stop relying on her. You're the reason she feels compelled to come here," he remarked. His comment took me by surprise, and I responded, "What? I don't recall ever asking Romina for help." His misunderstanding of the situation added another layer of frustration to an already troubling day. The revelation of stolen makeup items left me seething with anger, but the situation only intensified when my brother implied that I had been the one inviting Romina over repeatedly. "Bro, I never asked Romina to come here. The makeup lesson was entirely her idea," I countered. But he sharply retorted, "What are you talking about? Romina has been trying hard to help you get yourself together, because you're a mess." "Me a mess?" I was baffled and stood there in disbelief. Then, with a dismissive snort, my brother added, "I heard from our parents that all you do is play on your computer at home every day. Romina is worried about you. She told me your closet is full of expensive clothes and you have plenty of good makeup. Where do you get so much money? You must be siphoning off our parents. We can't let you handle things anymore. That's why we're taking over the household." This accusation struck me like a bolt of lightning. My brother had concluded that I was a shut-in, a NEET, not in education, employment, or training, based solely on my at-home computer use. But that wasn't the truth at all. I earn a steady income through my remote work, and my lifestyle doesn't imply a lack of societal participation. I had always believed my parents understood and supported my situation. When my parents returned home, I wasted no time addressing the issue. I relayed my brother's harsh words to them, hoping they would help calm him down. Yet, their response was not immediate, and they seemed deeply troubled, humming and hawing as if pondering something urgent. I pressed them for clarity. "Aiden says he's going to live here, but are you really okay with that, Dad and Mom?" Dad quietly responded, "Well, if Aiden wants to live here, I see no reason to object." Mom seemed to agree, adding, "Indeed, Romina is a wonderful person, and it might be fun for all of us to live together in this house." Hearing this, I was dumbstruck. At that moment, Aiden, standing behind me with a triumphant look, raised his voice. "Unlike you, a NEET who just stays at home, I actually earn money and have a wife. Nobody needs someone like you here." I immediately retorted, "I am not a NEET. I work from home." But Aiden continued dismissively, "Oh, work from home? That's what pathetic people who have dropped out of society do. It's not much different from being a NEET." His words cut deep, and I was pained by the growing rift within our family. His misunderstanding of remote work was evident. Nowadays, many companies endorse remote work, and plenty of people are gainfully employed and earning a living from it. The misperceptions and unfounded accusations made the familial tension even more difficult to bear. Though I am not employed by a traditional company, this doesn't lessen my worth. Yet, facing disdain from my brother, who dismissively labels me a NEET, is distressing. "All right, the NEET who works from home, pack your stuff and leave," he commanded. At this moment, both our parents alternated their glances between Aiden and me, uttering phrases like, "What to do?" and expressing their hesitance to intervene. It was a truly disheartening scene. It seemed everyone was charmed by Romina's amiable nature, and perhaps she and Aiden had discussed how delightful it would be to have more space for themselves, especially if they planned to have children. In comparison, as a single person, I'm seen as less likely to provide grandchildren, which might weigh on my parents' decision-making. Although unsure of our parents' true sentiments, the atmosphere made it painfully clear. There was no longer a place for me in this house. Yet, I maintained composure, and no tears were shed. Understanding my precarious position, I declared, "Understood. I'll take the furniture and appliances with me." This surprised Aiden and Romina. "How did a NEET like you afford furniture and appliances?" Aiden asked incredulously. "Check with Dad and Mom. Everything we acquired after you moved out was paid for by me," I asserted. After the confrontation, I withdrew to pack my belongings and contacted some acquaintances for help. Once I left, Aiden turned to our parents in disbelief, questioning how I managed to acquire all that furniture and appliances. Unaware of the full context, our parents responded with a smile. "If Alexa is called a NEET, and since you are earning more, Aiden, we can buy new furniture and appliances if hers are gone, right?" They even mentioned wanting a new massage chair, something I had previously deemed an unnecessary expense. Our parents have always been optimists, seemingly unfazed because Aiden, who has a steady job, could easily replace what was left with me. In fact, despite the family perception, I have been handling the property taxes on our house for quite some time, a fact not disclosed to Aiden. Our parents tend not to share their disadvantages openly. As I watched Aiden repeatedly bring up financial concerns, our parents merely laughed it off. "We're at ease because you are here, Aiden." I observed this exchange from the stairs while making calls to finalize my moving arrangements. The next day, I was set to relocate to an apartment I had previously secured. Several friends, including one who owned a moving company, had agreed to assist, making the process smoother during this off-peak season. As the movers and I ensured all my belongings were packed, Aiden and Romina watched, clearly stunned by the unfolding events. I instructed the movers to conduct a final check of the house, ensuring nothing was left behind. The day was busy yet methodical, and by its end, I was ready to start afresh in a new space, leaving behind the misunderstandings and hurt of my old home. After confirming everything was loaded, the moving truck pulled away, destined for my new home. My friend, who had come to help, asked, "Alexa, shall we head to your new place? I'm sorry for suddenly asking you to help with the move." "Don't mention it," I reassured him. "When you said you wanted to set up a new writing environment, I promised to help. It's no trouble at all." Up until then, Romina, who had been silent, overwhelmed by the unfolding events, suddenly addressed me. "You're actually a novelist, and this gentleman is your editor?" I nodded, confirming her guess. "I've been planning to move out of my parent house for a while now, to foster a better environment for my writing. It was difficult with someone frequently entering my room without permission, taking my clothes and makeup. I needed to move sooner, but I was stuck because I was handling the property taxes for this house. That's when Aiden and you decided to move in," I continued, addressing her directly. "I'm grateful you're here to look after our parents who have a penchant for gambling. I don't plan to tell you all where my new place is. I can't bear the thought of my thieving sister-in-law dropping by. Oh, and since this house is in my name, I plan to sell it." As I spoke, I pulled out my smartphone and showed them a video of Romina stealthily stealing my cosmetics and placing them in her bag. Romina's face drained of color as she watched herself on the screen. My brother and parents, previously unaware of her actions, now looked at her with cold, judging eyes. "It's not what it looks like," Aiden stammered. "Alexa was a NEET, and it seemed so wrong that she would have expensive cosmetics and clothes. I thought I was doing her a favor by taking them." Despite his excuses, the fact remained clear. Romina had stolen from me, and now everyone knew she was a thief. I shrugged and said, "Well, this is a good moment to cut ties with everyone." I then got into the car driven by my editor. Just before we left the driveway, I could see Aiden and Romina arguing with our parents. If they started fighting in front of the house, the neighbors would surely notice. To ensure I wouldn't be dragged back into their drama, I blocked all their numbers on my smartphone. Months later, during a book signing event, a thin and worn-looking Romina appeared, still wearing the clothes and nail polish she had taken from me. I'm sorry, I need help, she pleaded. I replied firmly, I'm sorry, but I don't know someone like you. Without taking back the items, I walked away. According to what I heard from acquaintances, after the house was sold, my parents, brother, and Romina continued living together. However, my parents resumed their extravagant spending, which led to financial strain as Aiden's income alone couldn't support them. I learned that they became demanding and started taking out their frustrations on Romina and Aiden. Romina had to start working to support their living expenses, and she became so busy that the idea of having children became unthinkable. Since I am no longer involved, I occasionally hear about their challenges while I focus on my writing, peacefully settled in my new home.
The text message from my mother-in-law Yolanda felt like a slap across the face. We won't be attending Poppy's birthday party. I hope you understand that these celebrations are different for girls. I'm Summer, and at that moment, I wanted to throw my phone through our kitchen window. Instead, I gripped the counter until my knuckles turned white, trying to process how anyone could be so cruel to a 6-year-old child. Mommy, is Abuela coming to my party? Poppy's voice startled me. She stood in the doorway, clutching her favorite stuffed elephant, her dark curls still messy from her afternoon nap. Honey, The words caught in my throat. How do you tell your daughter that her grandmother thinks she's less worthy of celebration because she wasn't born a boy? The front door opened, and Caleb walked in, loosening his tie. One look at my face, and he knew something was wrong. What happened? I thrust my phone at him. Your mother happened. Again. His eyes scanned the message and his face darkened. I'll call her. Don't bother, I said, watching Poppy retreat to the living room. This isn't the first time and it won't be the last. Remember Christmas? When they gave your brother's sons those expensive gaming consoles while Poppy got a coloring book? Summer, they're old-fashioned, but old-fashioned? I laughed bitterly. They attended your nephew's birthday last month. Threw him a party that looked like a mini carnival. But our daughter? She's not worth their time. Caleb ran his hands through his hair, a gesture I'd seen countless times when he was stuck between his wife and his family. Let me talk to them. Maybe if I explain... Explain what? I lowered my voice, conscious of Poppy in the next room. That their granddaughter deserves love? That she notices every time they slight her? That she asked me last week why Abuela hugs her cousins more than her? The pain in Caleb's eyes matched mine, but I needed more than pain. I needed action. I'm done, I declared. I'm done watching our daughter shrink herself to fit into their narrow view of what matters. This birthday party? It's going to be something they'll regret missing. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Prince, Caleb's brother. Mom told me about the party. Try to see it from their perspective. Girls don't carry on the family name. Perspective? I shoved the phone in Caleb's face. Your brother's perspective can go straight to hell. Caleb reached for me, but I stepped back. I need you to choose, Caleb. Right now. Are you with your daughter or are you with them? That's not fair, he protested. They're my family. And what are we? Before he could answer, Poppy appeared again, this time holding her birthday invitation. Mommy, can I show you my drawing for the party? I forced a smile. Of course, baby. She climbed onto a kitchen stool, spreading out her artwork, a colorful circus tent with dancing animals. See? There's going to be a lion and elephants and... She pointed to each figure with pride. Looking at her excitement, something shifted inside me. This wasn't just about revenge anymore. This was about showing my daughter that her worth wasn't determined by anyone else's prejudices. I picked up my phone and dialed Angela, my best friend. Hey, remember that event planning company you worked with last summer? The one that did that celebrity kids party? I need their number. Summer? Angela's voice was concerned. What are you planning? Something big. Something that will make the Salazars realize exactly what they're missing out on. I watched Poppy continue coloring, humming to herself. They want to skip her party? Fine, but I'm going to make it the kind of party people talk about for years. I'm in, Angela said without hesitation. What do you need? Caleb was watching me, his expression a mix of worry and curiosity. I met his gaze head on. I need you to decide where you stand, I told him. Because this party isn't just a birthday celebration anymore. It's a statement. He looked at Poppy, then back at me, and finally nodded. I'm with you. Both of you. Always. Good, I said, already making mental notes. Because when I'm done, your family won't be boycotting our daughter's party. They'll be begging for an invitation. And in that moment, watching my daughter draw her dream party while my husband finally took a stand, I knew this wasn't just about revenge. It was about justice, about love, and about showing the world, especially the Salazars, that every child deserves to be celebrated regardless of their gender. This is insane, Summer, my mother Adeline said, but her eyes sparkled with excitement as she looked over the party plans spread across her dining room table. A full circus theme with professional performers? Too much? I asked, watching my father Frank write out another check. Not enough, he replied, sliding the check toward me. No one messes with my granddaughter. I stared at the amount. Dad, this is... Don't you dare say it's too much. He cut me off. I've been saving for something special, and this is it. Besides, your mother and I have some connections that might help. Angela burst through the front door, her arms full of sample fabrics and color swatches. You won't believe who just RSVP'd. Marcel Price's assistant called. You know, the media mogul? He's bringing his twins. My jaw dropped. Marcel Price owned half the children's entertainment networks in the country. How did he even hear about this? Remember my cousin who works at his company? Angela grinned. I might have mentioned that we're putting together the most magical children's party of the year. My phone buzzed. Caleb. The rental company confirmed the tent, he said. It's big enough for 200 people. 200? I squeaked. We invited 50. Trust me, Angela said, laying out photographs of aerial performers. With Marcel Price coming, you'll need the space. People are already calling, asking if they can attend. My mother grabbed her phone. I'm calling Catherine from the dance academy. Her students would be perfect for the opening number. Opening number? I felt slightly dizzy. Every great show needs an opening number, Dad said matter-of-factly. And this isn't just a party anymore, sweetheart. This is a statement. The front door opened again and Poppy ran in, fresh from her dance class. Mommy, Miss Rachel taught me a new trick for my routine. She twirled in place, her face glowing with excitement. I hadn't seen her this happy since before she started noticing her grandparents' rejection. Show us, Princess, Dad encouraged, clearing space in the living room. Poppy launched into a series of graceful movements, ending with a perfect split. We all applauded, and I noticed tears in my mother's eyes. That's it, Mom declared. We're adding a stage. Poppy needs to perform. Mom, she's 6. And talented, Angela interrupted. Summer, don't you see? This is perfect. Let her shine. Show everyone exactly what the Salazars are missing. My phone buzzed again. Prince this time. Mom's upset. She says you're turning this into a circus just to spite her. I showed the message to everyone. Dad snorted. She hasn't seen anything yet. The nerve, Mom muttered, already dialing another number. Hello, James. It's Adeline. Remember that favor you owe me? How do you feel about bringing your elephants to a birthday party? Real elephants? Poppy's eyes went wide. Really, really real ones? I watched my daughter's face light up and suddenly all my doubts vanished. Yes, baby. Real elephants. And that's just the beginning. Angela was now on her laptop, creating a social media event. We need a hashtag. Something catchy. How about Mopopley's Big Top? Dad suggested. Perfect, Angela typed furiously. And posted. Now we wait. Within minutes, her phone started pinging with notifications. "Oh my God," she whispered. "It's going viral. Local influencers are sharing it already." Caleb walked in, looking both excited and nervous. "My brother just called. He's trying to convince Mom to reconsider attending." "Too late," I said firmly. "That ship has sailed." "Actually," Mom interjected, "let them stew. Let them watch as this becomes the event of the season. Let them realize what their prejudice cost them." "Mommy," Poppy tugged at my sleeve, "can I invite Maria from dance class? And Sophie? And Lucas?" "Invite your whole class, sweetheart," Dad said. "This is your day." As Poppy squealed with delight and ran to make a list of friends, I felt a surge of gratitude for my family. My real family. The ones who showed up, who supported us, who understood that love doesn't discriminate. "The rental company needs a deposit by tomorrow," Caleb reminded me. I picked up Dad's check. "Tell them it's done. And Caleb? Thank you for standing with us." He pulled me close. "I should have done it sooner. You and Poppy are my world." "Group hug," Angela declared, pulling everyone together. As we stood there, surrounded by party plans and love, I realized this wasn't just about teaching the Salazars a lesson anymore. This was about creating something magical, something unforgettable, for a little girl who deserved every bit of joy we could give her. And if it happened to become the most talked about children's party in recent memory, well, that would just be the cherry on top. The day before the party, our backyard had transformed into a wonderland. A massive red and white striped tent dominated the space, while workers strung twinkling lights through every tree. The smell of fresh popcorn wafted through the air as the concession stands were tested. "Mrs. Price's assistant is on the phone again," Angela announced, rushing toward me with her tablet. "They want to know if they can bring a camera crew. Apparently, Marcel is doing a segment on unique children's parties for his new network." Before I could respond, my phone lit up with a text from Yolanda. "This excessive display is unnecessary. You're only hurting Poppy by spoiling her." "Delete," Angela commanded, grabbing my phone. "Focus on what matters. The camera crew? I need to ask Poppy," I said, heading inside where my daughter was practicing her routine with Mom. I stopped in the doorway, watching her twirl in her sparkly costume. She caught sight of me in the mirror and beamed. "Mommy, Miss Rachel says I'm ready." "Baby, how would you feel about being on TV tomorrow?" Her eyes grew wide. "Like a real star?" "Only if you want to," I assured her. "It's your party." She launched herself into my arms. "Yes. Can I show them my special dance? The one with the ribbon?" "Of course you can, Princess." I hugged her tight, then turned to Mom. "What do you think?" "I think Yolanda's going to choke on her morning coffee when she sees her granddaughter on television," Mom replied with a wicked grin. A commotion outside drew our attention. Through the window, I saw James arriving with his elephants. Two gentle giants named Rose and Daisy. Poppy squealed and ran outside, where Dad was already waiting with his camera. "Look who's here early to meet the birthday girl," James called out, helping Poppy offer a carrot to Rose. The elephant delicately took the treat as Poppy giggled. Photographers who'd been setting up their equipment started snapping pictures. "Summer," Angela waved frantically from the tent. "Marcel Price is here, a day early." My heart jumped as I saw a sleek black car pull up. A tall man in an impeccably tailored suit stepped out, followed by two children around Poppy's age. "I hope you don't mind us dropping by today," Marcel said, extending his hand. "My twins couldn't wait until tomorrow, and I wanted to see this set up for myself." "Of course not," I managed, trying to sound calm. "Poppy's just meeting the elephants if your children would like to join." "Daddy, look." His daughter pointed at Poppy, who was now sitting on a decorated platform on Rose's back, James holding her securely. "Can we try?" Marcel watched thoughtfully as Poppy waved to everyone below, her face glowing with joy. "Your daughter has quite a presence," he observed. "Very natural in front of the cameras. She loves performing," I said proudly. "She's prepared a special dance for tomorrow." "Is that so?" He turned to his assistant. "Make sure we get that on camera, all of it." A familiar car drove slowly past the house, Prince's SUV. He didn't stop, but I knew he'd report back to Yolanda about the media presence and the elephants. Mrs. Price was wondering. Marcel's assistant approached. If Poppy might be interested in auditioning for our new children's program? It's about a little girl who runs away to join the circus. I nearly dropped my phone. I'd have to discuss it with my husband. Of course. Marcel nodded. No rush. Let's see how tomorrow goes first. As if on cue, Caleb's car pulled into the driveway. He stepped out, looking stunned at the transformation of our property. Is that Marcel Price? He whispered as he reached me. He wants Poppy to audition for a TV show. I whispered back. Caleb's eyes widened. What about my mother? What about her? I challenged. She made her choice. Summer. He took my hands. She's been calling all day, crying. Prince showed her the social media posts. She realizes she made a mistake. A mistake? I pulled away. She's been making mistakes since Poppy was born. Tomorrow isn't about her anymore. It's about our daughter. As if to emphasize my point, Poppy's laughter rang out across the yard. She was now teaching Marcel's twins her dance moves while the camera crew captured every moment. Look at her, I said to Caleb. Really look at her. She's happy, confident, shining. No one gets to dim that light. Not even your mother. He wrapped an arm around me, watching our daughter. You're right. And Summer? Thank you for fighting for her when I wasn't strong enough to. Better late than never. I smiled, leaning into him. Now, help me figure out where we're going to put the trapeze artists. They just called. They're bringing an extra performer. As the sun set behind our circus wonderland, I couldn't help but think that sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about rising above and creating something magical in spite of those who tried to hold you down. The morning of the party exploded with energy. Camera crews positioned themselves around the tent while acrobats warmed up on their equipment. The smell of cotton candy and fresh popcorn filled the air as vendors prepared their carts. Mommy, Poppy called from her room. My hair isn't right. I rushed upstairs to find her struggling with her costume's headpiece. The sparkly purple outfit we'd chosen made her look like a tiny circus princess. Here, baby, I said, adjusting the rhinestone tiara. Perfect. Will I remember all my steps? Her bottom lip trembled slightly. You'll be amazing, I assured her. And if you forget anything, just smile and keep going. That's what real performers do. A knock at the door revealed Angela, slightly breathless. You need to see this. She held up her phone, showing a local news station's live feed. There, parked a block away, was a line of cars, the Salazar family, watching the preparations from a distance. Let them watch, I said, turning back to Poppy. Ready to greet your guests, sweetheart? She nodded enthusiastically, previous nerves forgotten. We descended the stairs to find Marcel Price in our living room, discussing something with Caleb. There's our star. Marcel beamed at Poppy. My twins haven't stopped talking about you since yesterday. They're already outside with the elephants. The doorbell started ringing constantly as guests arrived. Children rushed past in excitement, parents gaped at the transformed backyard, and photographers captured every moment. Summer? Caleb pulled me aside. My mother just called. She's crying. Not now, I said firmly, watching Poppy greet her friends. This is Poppy's moment. The party kicked into high gear as professional performers began their acts. Trapeze artists soared overhead while jugglers weaved through the crowd. James gave elephant rides to delighted children, and face painters transformed little faces into exotic animals. Ladies and gentlemen, the announcer's voice boomed through the speakers. Please welcome our special birthday performer, Miss Poppy. The crowd gathered around the central stage as the music began. Poppy emerged from behind a sparkly curtain, her ribbon dancing through the air as she started her routine. Every move was perfect, every turn precise. The audience watched, transfixed, as this 6-year-old commanded the stage with natural grace. Remarkable, Marcel murmured beside me. She has that special something, that spark that can't be taught. As Poppy finished her performance with a perfect split, the crowd erupted in applause. Camera flashes went off like fireworks, and Marcel's crew captured everything. Summer, He turned to me. I'd like to offer Poppy a screen test next week. That routine just convinced me. She's exactly what we're looking for. Before I could respond, Angela rushed over. You need to see this. She led me to the entrance where Yolanda stood, tears streaming down her face. Behind her, Prince and several other family members waited awkwardly. Please, Yolanda whispered. Please let me see my granddaughter. Now you want to see her? I felt the anger rising. After you dismissed her? After you made her feel less than? I was wrong, she sobbed. Watching her perform just now, from down the street, I've been so foolish, so stuck in old ways. Please, Summer, let me make it right. That's not my decision, I said coldly. It's Poppy's. As if summoned, Poppy appeared beside me, still flushed from her performance. She stopped short when she saw Yolanda. Abuela? She said quietly. Mi amor. Yolanda fell to her knees. I'm so sorry. Your party, everything is beautiful. Will you forgive your foolish grandmother? Poppy looked up at me, then back at Yolanda. With the wisdom that sometimes only children possess, she stepped forward and hugged her grandmother. You missed all my other parties, she said simply. Don't miss any more, okay? Yolanda broke down completely, holding Poppy close. Never again, mi amor. Never again. Marcel appeared at my elbow. Now that's good television, he said softly. Real emotion, real reconciliation. Summer, if you're willing, I'd like to develop a show around Poppy, not just as a performer, but as this remarkable little girl who brings people together. I watched as Poppy led Yolanda by the hand to meet Marcel's twins, her natural warmth already melting years of prejudice. She does have a gift, I admitted, but any decisions about shows will need to wait until tomorrow. Today is just about celebrating. Of course, Marcel smiled, but do expect my call. As the party continued around us, with acrobats spinning overhead and music filling the air, I watched my daughter bridge the gap between old prejudices and new beginnings. She danced with her cousins, showed her grandmother her ribbon techniques, and glowed with the kind of happiness that only comes from being truly seen and valued. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's showing people exactly what they almost missed out on. 3 days after the party, our living room had become command central for what Angela jokingly called Operation Poppy Stardom. My coffee table disappeared under stacks of business cards, offers, and magazines featuring photos from the party. Look at this one, Angela said, holding up her phone. The video of Poppy's performance had gone viral, reaching millions of views. The comments are incredible. This little girl is going places. Most magical children's party ever. Where was my invitation? My phone buzzed. Yolanda again. Since the party, she'd called daily, trying to make amends. You should answer, Mom said, sorting through another pile of correspondence. She brought flowers to the house yesterday while you were out. I'm not ready, I admitted. It's too soon. The doorbell rang. Caleb opened it to find Marcel's assistant holding a thick envelope. The contract for Poppy's screen test, she explained. Mr. Price wants to fast-track this. He's never seen such organic audience response. As we reviewed the paperwork, Poppy burst through the door with Dad, returning from dance class. Miss Rachel says I'm ready for point shoes, she announced, twirling through the room. Slow down, princess. Dad laughed. You've got plenty of time for that. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Prince. Mom's a mess. She can't sleep. Please talk to her. Your brother-in-law? Angela asked. I nodded. You know, Mom said carefully, forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It means choosing to move forward. Before I could respond, Poppy climbed onto my lap. Mommy, can Abuela come to my dance class tomorrow? She called Miss Rachel and asked if she could watch. I stiffened. She did what? She's trying, Summer, Caleb said softly. She even called the studio to learn about proper dance attire for young girls. She wants to understand Poppy's world. The doorbell rang again. This time, it was Yolanda herself, clutching a pink gift bag. I know I should have called first, she said quickly before I could speak. but I found these while cleaning my attic. They belong to my grandmother. She pulled out a pair of antique silver hair combs, decorated with tiny dancers. She was a ballerina in Mexico City. I never told anyone because I was taught that performing wasn't respectable. I was wrong. So wrong. Poppy's eyes lit up at the combs. They're so pretty. They're for you, mi amor, Yolanda said. If your mother allows it. I looked at the combs, then at my daughter's hopeful face, and finally at Yolanda's tear-filled eyes. They're beautiful, I conceded. Thank you. There's more, Yolanda continued, pulling out old photographs. These are of my grandmother performing. I thought maybe they could inspire Poppy. The photos showed a striking young woman in classical ballet poses. Poppy grabbed them eagerly. Look, Mommy, she's doing my moves. Actually, Yolanda said hesitantly, I was hoping. Would it be possible for me to attend the screen test next week? I want to support Poppy properly this time. The room fell silent. Everyone watched me, waiting for my response. You heard her, I said finally. You heard us both. I know, Yolanda whispered. I will spend the rest of my life making up for that. Mommy, Poppy tugged at my sleeve. Remember what Miss Rachel says about second chances? I had to smile. That they're like learning a new dance move. You have to give them your full attention. Poppy nodded seriously. And you have to practice to get better. Angela snorted into her coffee. Out of the mouths of babes. Okay, I said, looking directly at Yolanda. You can come to the screen test, but this is Poppy's journey. No criticism, no old-fashioned ideas about what girls should or shouldn't do. I promise, Yolanda said fervently. I want to learn, to understand, to be the grandmother she deserves. As if to seal the deal, Poppy took the antique combs and held them out to Yolanda. Can you put these in my hair, Abuela? Like your grandmother wore them? The tender way Yolanda arranged the combs in Poppy's hair, explaining their history and sharing stories about her grandmother, the ballerina, made something shift in my heart. It wasn't forgiveness exactly, not yet, but it was a beginning. Look, Angela whispered, showing me her phone. She'd captured the moment between grandmother and granddaughter, the silver combs glinting in Poppy's dark curls. Sometimes the best revenge is letting people realize what they almost lost. I watched as Yolanda taught Poppy how to pose like her great-great-grandmother, their laughter filling the room, and realized that maybe, just maybe, this was better than any revenge I could have planned. The screen test studio buzzed with activity. Makeup artists fussed over Poppy while Marcel's team adjusted lights and cameras. In the waiting area, our entire family had assembled. Even Prince brought his sons, who now watched their cousin with undisguised admiration. She's so calm, Yolanda whispered, clutching her rosary. I'm more nervous than she is. That's our Poppy, Dad said proudly, born for the spotlight. Marcel strode in, reviewing notes on his tablet. All right, everyone. We're going to film 3 scenes. First, Poppy will perform her ribbon dance. Then we'll do a short dialogue scene, and finally, an improvised interaction with our current show's star, Tommy Turner. Tommy Turner? Poppy's cousins exclaimed. From the Magic Tree House? On cue, a freckled boy about Poppy's age entered with his mother. He waved at Poppy, who gave a little wave back. Places, everyone, Marcel called. Family members can watch from the observation room. As we filed into the adjacent room with its large viewing window, Yolanda grabbed my arm. Summer, wait. There's something you should know. What is it? I've been taking dance classes, she admitted. Beginner's ballet. I want to understand Poppy's world better. Before I could respond, the music started. Poppy began her routine, but this time with something extra. She'd incorporated the story of her great-great-grandmother, the ballerina, into her movements. The antique combs sparkled in her hair as she danced. Extraordinary, Marcel murmured, scribbling notes. She's not just performing, she's telling a story. The ribbon dance flowed seamlessly into the dialogue scene, where Poppy read lines with a natural ease that made even the crew stop and watch. Now for the improv, Marcel announced. Tommy, join Poppy, please. Just play together naturally. Pretend you're meeting at a playground. What happened next left everyone speechless. Poppy and Tommy created an impromptu story about a magical circus where children could fly. Their interaction was so genuine, so engaging that Marcel didn't call cut for nearly 10 minutes. "That's it," he exclaimed finally. "That's exactly what we've been looking for. Summer, Caleb, can we talk contracts?" As Marcel led us to his office, Angela rushed in with her phone. "You need to see this. Someone leaked footage from the birthday party online. It's trending nationwide." The video showed Poppy's reconciliation with Yolanda, followed by her performance. The comments were overwhelming. "This is the kind of representation we need." Finally, a young girl who shows that tradition and progress can coexist. "When's her show starting? My daughters need this." Marcel's assistant burst in. "Sir, Good Morning America wants to feature Poppy and her grandmother. They're calling it Breaking Barriers Through Dance, a story about bridging generational and cultural gaps." "Perfect timing," Marcel smiled. "Because I'm not just offering Poppy a role in our existing show. I want to create a new series, centered around her. A young girl who uses dance to bring her family's past and present together." Caleb squeezed my hand as Marcel continued. "We'll call it Poppy's Grand Jeté. It's about family, tradition, and moving forward. Your daughter's story at the party? That's exactly what families across America need to see." "What do you think?" I asked Caleb. "I think," he said slowly, "that our daughter has a gift for healing hearts, even ones as stubborn as my family's." We returned to the studio to find Poppy teaching her cousins basic dance moves while Yolanda watched, beaming with pride. "Before you decide," Yolanda approached us, "I want you to know something. I've rented a studio space next to Poppy's dance school. I'm opening a Hispanic cultural center. Dance classes, storytelling, art. I want to preserve our traditions while celebrating our children's futures." "Abuela," Poppy ran over. "Did you see? Tommy and I made up a whole story. Can he come to your cultural center too?" "Of course, mi amor. Everyone is welcome." Marcel cleared his throat. "So, shall we sign? The network wants to fast-track this project." I looked at my daughter, surrounded by family who had learned to love her for exactly who she was. At Yolanda, who had transformed her regret into action. At Caleb, who stood firmly by our side. "Poppy," I called, "how would you like to star in your own TV show?" Her eyes widened. "Can I dance in it?" "It's all about dance, tradition, and family," Marcel explained. "Can Abuela tell stories about the bailarina?" "That's exactly what we want." Poppy looked at each of us, then did a perfect pirouette. "Yes, please." As everyone celebrated around us, I caught Yolanda wiping away tears. "Thank you," she whispered, "for giving me a second chance to be part of something magical." Sometimes I realized the best endings aren't about getting even. They're about growing together. The theater buzzed with excitement for Poppy's first live performance as the star of Poppy's Grand Jeté. 3 months of filming had culminated in this moment, a special preview event combining scenes from the show with a live dance performance. 5 minutes, Angela called, adjusting Poppy's costume. The antique combs, now her signature accessory, gleamed under the stage lights. Yolanda rushed in, carrying a small box. "Mi amor, look what I found in the Cultural Center's first donation drive." She opened it to reveal a delicate golden bracelet with tiny ballet shoes. "It belonged to another dancer who wanted you to have it." "It's beautiful, Abuela," Poppy gasped. "Can I wear it tonight?" As Yolanda fastened the bracelet, Marcel appeared. "Full house," he announced. "Every network executive, entertainment reporter, and social media influencer in the city is out there. Are you ready, Poppy?" She nodded confidently, then turned to me. "Mommy, will you and Daddy watch from backstage?" "Front row, baby," Caleb assured her. Right between Abuela and Grandma Adeline, the orchestra began tuning up. Prince poked his head in, his sons trailing behind him. "Break a leg, Poppy. The boys made you something." They presented her with a hand-drawn card covered in glitter. "You're our favorite star," the youngest said shyly. Places, everyone, the stage manager called. I hugged Poppy tight. Remember what we always say? Shine bright and dance with my heart, she recited, then skipped to her position. The house lights dimmed. Marcel stepped onto the stage to introduce the show, explaining how a birthday party had sparked a movement celebrating family, tradition, and the arts. The screen above the stage lit up with the show's first episode. The audience laughed at Poppy's natural wit, gasped at her dance sequences, and fell silent during the emotional scenes where her character helped bridge generational divides. When the screening ended, the curtain rose to reveal Poppy center stage. The music began, a fusion of classical ballet and traditional Hispanic melodies that Yolanda had helped compose. Poppy's performance told the story of her great-great-grandmother, the ballerina, through dance. As she moved, images from the antique photographs were projected behind her, creating a dialogue between past and present. Halfway through, Yolanda rose from her seat and walked to the stage. This was the surprise we'd planned. Grandmother and granddaughter dancing together, mixing ballet with traditional Mexican dance steps Yolanda had learned. The audience erupted in applause as they finished. Poppy in her modern costume, Yolanda in traditional dress, embracing center stage. That's not all. Marcel's voice boomed through the speakers. Tonight, we're announcing the Poppy's Grand Jeté Foundation, providing dance and arts education to underserved communities. Caleb stood up. And the first cultural center opens next month, he announced, with programs celebrating all traditions, all families, all dreams. The applause was deafening. Reporters' cameras flashed as Poppy and Yolanda took their bows. But the real surprise came when Prince and his sons joined them on stage, followed by our entire extended family. This is what we're about, Caleb declared into the microphone. Not just entertainment, but transformation. Not just tradition, but growth. At the after-party, surrounded by industry executives and reporters, Poppy sat with her cousins, teaching them dance moves while still in her performance costume. Summer, Yolanda touched my arm. Look at this. She showed me her phone, a message from her sister in Mexico. I saw the live stream. I was wrong about girls carrying on traditions. Poppy has carried our family's story further than we ever imagined. Marcel clinked his glass for attention. The network has seen the response. We're not just picking up the show for a full season. We're launching a whole programming block about family traditions and modern dreams. And it all started with a little girl's birthday party. And a grandmother who learned to change? Yolanda added softly. Tommy Turner, who'd become Poppy's regular co-star, ran up with exciting news. Poppy, we're trending #1. All the kids at my school want to learn dance now. As camera crews captured the celebration, I watched my daughter move effortlessly between worlds, teaching her cousins ballet while learning traditional dances from Yolanda, sharing stories with reporters while keeping her young co-stars entertained. You know, Angela said, scrolling through social media reactions, this is way better than revenge. You didn't just prove them wrong, you helped them change. Poppy's laughter rang out as she danced with her grandfather, her new bracelet catching the light, the antique combs secure in her hair, a perfect blend of past and future. Ready for what comes next? Caleb asked, putting his arm around me. Looking at our transformed family, I smiled. As long as we dance through it together. The grand opening of the cultural center buzzed with energy as children rushed through the newly painted halls. Poppy led a group tour, proudly showing off the dance studios, art rooms, and the special heritage hall filled with photographs and stories from different families. And this, she announced, stopping at a prominent display, is my great-great-grandmother, the ballerina. The antique photos had been beautifully framed alongside the silver combs that started it all. Poppy! Tommy called from the main studio. The camera crew is ready for our demonstration. As the children gathered to watch, I felt Yolanda's hand slip into mine. I never imagined this, she whispered. Look at what she created. The center had become more than we'd dreamed, a place where tradition and progress danced together. In one room, Prince's sons took modern dance classes. In another, elderly community members taught traditional crafts to eager students. Summer. Angela rushed over with her tablet. The registration list for next semester is completely full. We have a waiting list of over 200 kids. Marcel emerged from his meeting with the network executives. It's official. We're franchising the cultural center concept nationwide. Poppy's Grand Jeté isn't just a show anymore. It's a movement. Mommy, Poppy called from the studio. Come quick. Abuela's going to show everyone her recital dance. I followed her voice to find Yolanda in her ballet practice clothes, ready to perform the routine she'd been practicing for months. The room fell silent as she began, her movements telling the story of her journey from rigid traditionalist to proud grandmother of a dancing star. Remember when she wouldn't even come to my birthday? Poppy whispered, watching her grandmother dance. Now she's braver than anyone. Caleb wrapped his arm around us both. Sometimes people just need the right motivation to change. The demonstration class began, with Poppy and Tommy leading children through basic steps. Parents watched from the observation window, including several who had once sided with Yolanda's old views. Mi amor, Yolanda called to Poppy after the class. Show them the special combination we created. Together, grandmother and granddaughter performed a dance that blended ballet with traditional Mexican steps. The sight of them moving in perfect harmony brought tears to more than a few eyes. This is what healing looks like, Mom said, squeezing my hand. Not just forgetting the past, but building something new from it. Dad, who'd been quietly documenting everything on his camera, showed me his latest shot. Poppy teaching Yolanda a pirouette while both wore identical grins. The network loves this angle, Marcel commented. The show's next season will focus on the cultural center and its impact on the community. Real stories, real transformations. Prince approached with his wife, both looking somewhat sheepish. We've been thinking, would you consider adding traditional music classes? The boys are interested in learning. Of course, Poppy exclaimed before anyone could respond. Everyone's welcome here. That's the whole point. As the day wound down, families lingered in the Heritage Hall, adding their own stories to the collection. Yolanda stood before her grandmother's photos, now joined by pictures from Poppy's show and the birthday party that started it all. I was so wrong, she said softly. I thought holding on to tradition meant resisting change. But look at this place. We're not losing our heritage, we're helping it grow. Poppy, still wearing her practice tutu, took her grandmother's hand. Abuela, can we add your ballet recital photo to the wall? You want to display that? Of course, it's part of our story now. As Yolanda and Poppy arranged the new photo, I caught sight of my reflection in the studio mirrors. The woman who had once plotted revenge had transformed too, just like everyone else. Ready to head home? Caleb asked, gathering Poppy's dance bags. Wait, Poppy called. One more thing. She ran to the center of the main studio and performed the split that had once dazzled her birthday party audience. But this time, Yolanda joined her on the floor, matching her pose perfectly. Look, Mommy, Abuela learned it. The room erupted in applause and laughter. Even Prince's boys attempted their own wobbly splits. You know what's better than revenge? I said to Angela as we watched the impromptu split competition unfold. What's that? Revolution. Because that's what we'd created. Not just a TV show or a cultural center, but a revolution of hearts. A place where the past and future could coexist, where tradition could evolve without being lost, and where a little girl's birthday party could change everything. Again, Poppy called out to her growing dance family. Everyone together this time. And as the room filled with joyful attempts at splits and pirouettes, I realized that sometimes the best endings aren't endings at all. They're beautiful new beginnings.
The note trembled in my hands as I read the words that would shatter my world. I'm so sorry, but Wayne and I are in love. Please try to understand. Gwen. My name is Heidi, and this is how my sister stole my husband. I stood in our kitchen, my kitchen now, I suppose, staring at Gwen's hastily scrawled handwriting on a Post-it note, of all things. The coffee I'd been brewing dripped steadily into the pot, filling the room with a deceptively normal morning aroma. My phone buzzed. Naomi from work. Hey, you're usually here by now. Everything okay? They're gone, I managed to whisper. What? Who's gone? Heidi, you're scaring me. Wayne and Gwen, I couldn't finish the sentence. The note crumpled in my fist. I'm coming over. Don't move. 20 minutes later, Naomi burst through my front door. I hadn't even locked it after discovering the note. She found me still standing in the kitchen, now clutching Wayne's wedding ring. He'd left it on the counter next to Gwen's note. What happened? Naomi guided me to sit at the kitchen table. I handed her the note. Her eyes widened as she read it, then narrowed with fury. That little witch, your own sister? I should have seen it coming, I said, memories suddenly flooding back with horrible clarity. The late-night work meetings Wayne kept having. Gwen showing up here all the time to check on me when he was out. God, I'm such an idiot. Stop that right now, Naomi snapped. You're not the idiot here. My phone rang again. Mom's name flashed on the screen. I let it go to voicemail. She probably knows already, I said. Gwen always was her favorite. The phone rang again. And again. On the fourth call, I finally answered. Heidi, what did you do to make them leave? Mom's voice was shrill with accusation. My laugh came out hollow. What did I do? That's really your first question? Well, they must have had a reason. They're sleeping together, Mom. Your precious Gwen is sleeping with my husband. Silence crackled over the line. Then, oh dear. Is that all you have to say? Maybe if you hadn't been working so much. I hung up. Naomi reached across the table and squeezed my hand. I need to see their apartment, I said suddenly. Gwen's apartment. I have a key. Heidi, I don't think... But I was already grabbing my purse. Naomi followed me to my car, sliding into the passenger seat without argument. Gwen's apartment was empty. Not just empty, cleared out. They'd been planning this. How long had they been planning this? In Gwen's bedroom, all her clothes were gone. But there, on her dresser, was the silver locket I'd given her for her 25th birthday. The one with our childhood photo inside. She'd left it behind like it meant nothing. My phone buzzed with a text. Wayne. I'm sorry it had to be like this. We never meant to hurt you. I threw my phone against the wall so hard the screen cracked. They never meant to hurt me? I sank to the floor, my legs giving out. They never meant to... What did they think would happen? Naomi sat beside me, wrapping an arm around my shoulders. What do you need? I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. I need a lawyer, and I need to change the locks on my house, and I need... What? I need to know how to live in a world where my sister and my husband could do this to me. Naomi helped me to my feet. One step at a time. First, we're getting you out of here. Then, we're calling a locksmith. Then we're getting very, very drunk. As we left Gwen's apartment, I paused in the doorway. The locket still sat on the dresser, catching the morning light. For a moment, I considered taking it. It was mine, after all. I'd given it to her. But instead, I closed the door, leaving it behind just as they'd left me. In the car, another text came through on my cracked phone screen. Gwen this time. When you calm down, you'll understand. We couldn't help falling in love. I turned off my phone. They think I'll understand. I told Naomi as she drove. They think I'll forgive them. Will you? I watched the city scroll past my window, thinking of that silver locket sitting alone on the dresser, of Wayne's ring on my kitchen counter, of Gwen's childish handwriting on a yellow post-it note. Never, I said. And for the first time that morning, my voice didn't shake at all. 3 weeks after they left, I walked into work with my head held high and red lipstick perfectly applied. No one would see me break, not anymore. Someone's looking fierce today, Naomi said, falling into step beside me. New position still treating you well? I smiled, clutching my coffee cup. The promotion had come as a surprise. Apparently throwing yourself into work after your husband runs off with your sister can do wonders for productivity. Marketing director has a nice ring to it, I replied, unlocking my new office. The nameplate still made me pause. Heidi Hamilton, director of marketing. Speaking of rings, Naomi closed the door behind us. Did you finally call the divorce lawyer? I pulled a folder from my desk. Meeting him tomorrow. Found some interesting things in Wayne's old financial records. Do tell. Let's just say his successful investments weren't so successful. He's been hiding debt, lots of it. My phone buzzed. Mom again. I silenced it without looking. Still not talking to her? Naomi asked. Not until she stops trying to convince me to understand their perspective. Did you know she actually suggested I should have seen this coming because Gwen always looked up to me so much? That's messed up. A knock at my door interrupted us. Greg from IT stood there, holding a laptop. Hey, heard you were having trouble with the new software? My hero, I said, gesturing him in. It keeps crashing during presentations. As Greg worked on my laptop, I caught Naomi giving me a meaningful look. She'd been trying to convince me Greg was interested in more than just fixing my technical issues. All set, Greg said after a few minutes. Hey, a bunch of us are grabbing drinks after work. You should come, both of you. He added quickly, glancing at Naomi. Before I could make an excuse, Naomi jumped in. We'll be there. After Greg left, I glared at her. I'm not ready. It's drinks with coworkers, not a marriage proposal. You need to get out more. My phone buzzed again, a text this time. Gwen, Mom's really worried about you. Please call her. I deleted it without responding. Fine, I said to Naomi. 1 drink. 1 drink turned into 3, and I found myself actually laughing at Greg's terrible IT jokes. The bar was crowded enough to feel anonymous, but not so loud we couldn't talk. So then the client says, have you tried turning it off and on again? Like I hadn't already. My phone lit up with a call, Wayne's number. The laughter died in my throat. Excuse me, I muttered, stepping outside. My finger hovered over the answer button before I forced myself to decline the call. A text followed immediately. Please pick up. We need to talk about the house. Everything okay? Greg had followed me out. Just my ex trying to weasel his way out of the mortgage, I said, pocketing my phone. Sorry about bailing on your story. No worries. Want to hear the ending over coffee sometime? I looked at him, really looked at him. Kind eyes, genuine smile, no wedding ring? 3 months ago, I would have said yes without hesitation. I'm not ready, I said honestly, but I appreciate the offer. He nodded, understanding. The offer stands, even just as friends. Back inside, Naomi was waiting with a concerned look. Wayne? And Gwen and Mom, the whole circus. Want to get out of here? I shook my head. Actually, I want another drink, and I want to hear the end of Greg's story. Later that night, as I unlocked my front door, another text came through, this time from an unknown number. You should know what your sister and ex-husband have been up to. Call me. Derek. I stared at the message, my finger hovering over delete. Instead, I saved the number. My house felt different now. Emptier, but somehow lighter. I'd redecorated, painted the walls, rearranged the furniture. No more family photos, no more wedding pictures. Just my space, my life. As I got ready for bed, my phone chimed one final time. Mom, I know you're hurt, but family is family. We need to talk about some things. There's more to this story than you know. I set my phone down without responding, but her words nagged at me. More to the story? What could possibly justify what they'd done? The old me would have called back immediately, desperate to understand, to fix things, to keep the peace. But I wasn't that person anymore. I turned off my phone, climbed into bed, and smiled at my ceiling. Tomorrow I had a divorce lawyer to meet, a presentation to nail, and a life to keep rebuilding. One day at a time. Let them keep their secrets. I was done trying to understand. The coffee shop was quiet when Mom walked in, exactly 15 minutes late. Some things never change. You look thin, she said, sliding into the seat across from me. Her first words in over a month, and they're a criticism. You wanted to talk, Mom, so talk. She fiddled with her purse strap. I visited Gwen last weekend. Of course you did. I started gathering my things. Wait, she grabbed my wrist. There are things you need to know about Gwen. About me. Something in her voice made me pause. What things? When I was 28, she began, releasing my wrist. I almost left your father, for his best friend. I sat back down hard. What? I was unhappy, felt trapped. Robert, your father's friend, he made me feel alive again. She twisted her wedding ring. We planned to leave together, had it all arranged. But you didn't. No, I chose your father, chose family. She met my eyes. I've spent 30 years wondering if I made the right choice. Are you saying what Gwen did was right? No, I'm saying I understand the temptation, the desperation to escape. Escape what? Her perfect life? Her doting family? Mom's laugh was bitter. Perfect. Heidi, you were always the golden child. Everything came easy to you. School, career, marriage. Gwen spent her whole life in your shadow. That's ridiculous. Is it? Who got into an Ivy League school? Who landed the perfect job straight out of college? Who married first, bought a house first, got promoted first? So this is my fault for being successful? No, but she stopped as my phone buzzed. Derek's number again. You should answer that, Mom said, nodding at my phone. I frowned. How do you know about Derek? Because he's the reason Gwen and Wayne are falling apart. She pulled out her own phone, showing me a social media post. Gwen and a handsome stranger, Derek, I assumed, looking cozy at a restaurant. When was this? Last week. Wayne doesn't know yet. I stared at the photo. Why are you showing me this? Because you deserve to know the whole story. Wayne and Gwen. They're not happy. They're drowning in debt, fighting constantly. She's turning to Derek, Wayne's drinking. And I should care because? Because they're family. They stopped being family when they betrayed me. Several heads turned at my outburst. I lowered my voice. You want to know what I think? I think you're trying to ease your own guilt by fixing this mess. What guilt? For always favoring Gwen, for making excuses for her, for comparing us our whole lives. Mom's face crumpled. I never meant, but you did. And now you're doing it again, trying to make me understand, to forgive. Well, I don't understand, and I don't forgive. Not them, and maybe not you either. I stood up, but Mom's next words stopped me cold. Wayne lost his job 3 months before they left. I slowly sat back down. What? He was embezzling from his company, gambling debts. When they caught him, they gave him a choice: resign quietly or face charges. That's impossible. He was still going to work every day, pretending, too ashamed to tell you. That's when he started spending more time with Gwen. She found out, tried to help him hide it from you. And they fell in love? I spat the words. They fell into desperation, made stupid choices, terrible choices. She reached for my hand. This time I let her take it. I'm not excusing what they did, but people in pain do painful things. My phone buzzed again. Derek, your sister's not who you think she is. Neither is Wayne. Let me prove it. What does Derek want? Mom asked. I don't know. I haven't called him. Maybe you should. Maybe it's time you knew everything. I pulled my hand away. Maybe I don't want to know everything. Maybe I'm tired of everyone else's drama becoming my problem. Heidi. No, Mom. I'm done being the responsible one, the understanding one, the one who has to fix everything. Let them destroy each other. I'm building a new life, and they're not part of it. I stood up again, gathering my things. Your father would want... Dad's gone, Mom. And so is the family we used to be. I shouldered my bag. I'll see you at Christmas. Maybe. As I walked out, my phone buzzed one final time. A message from Gwen. I need your help. Please. Everything's falling apart. I deleted it without reading further. Let it fall apart. I was done picking up their pieces. And that's why our new campaign will target millennials through experiential marketing, I concluded, clicking to my final slide. The boardroom sat in appreciative silence. Impressive work, Heidi, our CEO said, standing. Implementation starts next week. As people filed out, Greg caught my eye and gave me a thumbs up. Over the past few weeks, our coffee breaks had become a regular thing. Strictly platonic, but nice. Naomi burst into my office minutes later. You killed it. We need to celebrate. Actually, I said, checking my phone, I have plans. Hot date with Greg? I rolled my eyes. Pottery class. Pottery? Since when do you do pottery? Since I decided to try new things. I grabbed my bag. Want to come? She wrinkled her nose. And get clay under my nails? I'll pass. But dinner after? Deal. The pottery studio was peaceful, all warm lights and spinning wheels. I lost myself in shaping the clay, enjoying the simple satisfaction of creating something with my hands. That's coming along nicely, a voice said behind me. I turned to see Greg, wearing a clay-stained apron. Are you stalking me? He laughed. I've been coming here for years, never expected to see you here. I'm full of surprises. Clearly. He sat at the wheel next to mine. How are you doing? Really? I considered deflecting, but something in his expression made me answer honestly. Better. Some days I almost forget. Until Mom sends another guilt trip text, or Gwen leaves another desperate voicemail, or Derek. Who's Derek? Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. Speaking of the devil, another text from Derek. Your sister's playing both sides. Wayne knows about us now. Things are getting ugly. That's Derek, I said, showing Greg the message. Apparently he's involved with Gwen, even though she's with Wayne. Sounds messy? Everything about them is messy. I turned back to my pottery. I'm done with messy. Greg worked on his own piece quietly for a moment. You know, sometimes messy isn't all bad. Messy can lead to beautiful things. I looked at his perfectly formed bowl, then at my own lopsided attempt. Is that pottery wisdom or life wisdom? Both? He grinned. Hey, want to grab dinner after class? This time I didn't hesitate. Yes. Dinner was casual, just burgers at a local place, but comfortable. Greg told terrible IT jokes, and I found myself laughing genuinely. Then my phone rang. Wayne's number. You should answer it, Greg said gently, if only to tell him to stop calling. I took a deep breath and picked up. What do you want? Heidi, thank God. Wayne's voice was slurred. I messed up. Everything's messed up. You're drunk. Gwen's cheating on me. Can you believe it? After everything. I laughed harsh and hollow. After everything? You mean after you two cheated on me? That was different. We were in love. Were? Silence on the line. Then, I don't know anymore. I don't know anything anymore. No. I cut him off. You don't get to need anything from me. Not anymore. I hung up, hands shaking. You okay? Greg asked softly. Actually, yes. I smiled, surprising myself. That felt good. My phone buzzed again. Gwen this time. Wayne's drinking again. I don't know what to do. I turned my phone off completely. Tell me about your worst IT disaster, I said to Greg. I need a good laugh. He launched into a story about a CEO who downloaded a virus from a spam email, and I felt something inside me relax. This was nice, simple, uncomplicated, fresh. Later, walking me to my car, Greg said, You know, there's an art festival this weekend, if you're interested. Are you asking me on a real date? Yes, unless you're not ready, then I'm asking as a friend. I thought about Wayne's drunken call, about Gwen's messages, about Mom's revelations. Then I thought about how peaceful the pottery studio had felt, how easy dinner had been. A real date sounds nice. His smile was worth it. At home, I finally turned my phone back on. 3 missed calls from Wayne, 2 from Gwen, 1 from Mom, and another text from Derek. They're both lying to you. Let me tell you the truth. I opened my pottery class photos instead, lumpy bowls and all. Greg had taken one of me concentrating at the wheel, clay up to my elbows, smiling. I set it as my new background photo, replacing the blank screen that had been there since I deleted all the family photos. Sometimes messy could lead to beautiful things indeed. The doorbell rang at 11:47 p.m. I wasn't asleep. I'd been curled up on the couch, reviewing presentations and texting Greg about our upcoming 3rd date. Through the peephole, I saw them, Wayne and Gwen, looking desperate and disheveled. Go away, I called through the door. Please, Gwen's voice cracked. We have nowhere else to go. That sounds like a you problem. Heidi, Wayne this time. We lost everything. The bank took the car. We're being evicted. Please, just let us explain. Explain what? How you betrayed me? How Derek scammed us out of every penny we had? Gwen interrupted. I froze, hand on the doorknob. What? Please, she whispered. It's freezing out here. Against my better judgment, I opened the door. They looked worse up close. Wayne hadn't shaved in days, and Gwen's designer clothes had been replaced by worn jeans and a faded sweater. 5 minutes, I said, leaving them standing in the entryway. Talk. Derek was Wayne's gambling buddy. Gwen started. He convinced Wayne to invest in some scheme. After you lost your job for embezzling, I cut in. Yeah, Mom told me. Wayne's face fell. You know about that? I know everything. Well, almost everything. Still waiting to hear why you're on my doorstep at midnight. Derek promised he could help us double our money, Wayne said. Said he had insider information about some investments. We were desperate. So you gave him all your money? I laughed bitterly. Brilliant. Not just our money, Gwen whispered. We took out loans, multiple loans. And let me guess, Derek disappeared? With everything. Wayne slumped against the wall. The investment was fake. He played us. Like you played me? The words shot out before I could stop them. Gwen flinched. We deserve that. We deserve all of it, but Heidi, please. Please what? Take you in? Give you money? Forgive you? Just help us figure out what to do, Wayne said. You always know what to do. Not anymore. Not for you. My phone buzzed. Greg. Still up? Just finished that movie you recommended. Who's that? Gwen asked, peering at my phone. I turned it away. None of your business. Your 5 minutes are up. Mom said you're doing well, Gwen tried. New promotion, new friends. Don't. I held up my hand. Don't try to manipulate me. Don't pretend you care about my life now. We do care, Wayne insisted. We never meant to hurt me. Funny how everyone who betrays me never means to hurt me. I opened the front door. Get out. Heidi, please, Gwen was crying now. You're my sister. No, you gave up that right when you left that post-it note on my counter, when you took my husband and ran away without even looking back. We can't sleep in the car again, Wayne said quietly. Again? How long have you been living in your car? 3 days, Gwen admitted, since the eviction. My phone buzzed again. Mom this time. They came to see you, didn't they? Please help them. They've learned their lesson. Unbelievable, I muttered. She knew you were coming here. She suggested it, Wayne said. Said you'd forgive us eventually. Well, she was wrong. I held the door wider. There's a motel 6 blocks south. That's all the help you're getting from me. We don't have money for a motel, Gwen whispered. I went to my purse, pulled out 2 20s. Here, one night, tomorrow you figure out your own lives, just like I had to. They stared at the money, but neither moved to take it. It's this or nothing, I said. Wayne reached for the bills, but I pulled them back. One condition. You tell me everything about Derek, the whole truth. They exchanged glances. There's more, isn't there? I asked. More than just a scam? So much more, Gwen said, but you won't like it. I already don't like any of this. Another text buzz. Greg again. Sweet dreams. Looking forward to Saturday. Looking at my phone, then at the broken couple in my doorway, I made a decision. Take the money. Go to the motel. Tomorrow at noon, meet me at the coffee shop on 5th. Tell me everything then. I held out the bills. But this is it. After tomorrow, we're done. Forever. Wayne took the money, his hands shaking. Gwen moved to hug me, but I stepped back. Noon tomorrow, I repeated. Don't be late. I closed the door on their faces, then leaned against it, listening to their footsteps fade. My phone buzzed one final time. Derek. They came to see you, didn't they? Don't believe a word they say. Meet me instead. I'll tell you what really happened. I stared at the message, wondering just how deep this rabbit hole went. The coffee shop buzzed with late morning activity as I waited. I'd arrived early, choosing a corner table with a clear view of both entrances. Mind if I join you? I looked up to find Derek standing there, tall, well-dressed, nothing like the sleazy con man I'd imagined. How did you know I'd be here? He sat down uninvited. I know a lot of things, like how your sister and ex-husband spent the night at the Motel 6 on your dime. Are you following them? Following you, actually. He smiled, all charm. For your protection. That's creepy. What's creepy is how they're trying to manipulate you again. He leaned forward. Did they tell you about the money? Their gambling debts? Yes. No, your money. The money Wayne stole from your joint accounts before they left. My coffee cup froze halfway to my mouth. What? Check your old statements. The withdrawals started 3 months before they ran off together. Small amounts at first, then bigger ones. My hands shook as I pulled up my banking app. There they were. Dozens of withdrawals I'd never noticed. Too busy trusting my husband to manage our finances. Why are you telling me this? Because they're going to ask you for money today. They'll spin some sob story about how I scammed them, but the truth is, the door chimed. Wayne and Gwen walked in, stopping short when they saw Derek. You, Wayne snarled, moving toward our table. Careful, Derek said smoothly. Scene like that might get the police involved. Sure you want that, considering your history? Wayne paled. Gwen grabbed his arm. Sit down, I commanded. All of you. Time for the truth. They arranged themselves awkwardly around the table. Wayne and Gwen on one side, Derek on the other, me at the head like a judge presiding over a trial. Start talking, I said, about the money you stole from me. Wayne's face crumpled. I can explain. He was trying to win it back, Gwen cut in. The money he took from his company. He thought if he could just get ahead. Using my money? Using our money, Wayne corrected. We were married. We're being the operative word. I turned to Derek. And your role in all this? I tried to stop him. Derek spread his hands innocently, warned him the games were rigged, the investments were fake, but he wouldn't listen. Liar, Wayne half rose. You set the whole thing up. Did I force you to embezzle from your company? To steal from your wife? To run off with her sister? Stop it, Gwen whispered. Please, all of you. Why? I asked her. Isn't this what you wanted? Drama, excitement, breaking all the rules? I wanted to help him, she said. Wayne was spiraling, and you were so busy with work. Don't you dare blame this on me. The blame game's pointless, Derek interjected. What matters is what happens next. They want your money, Heidi. That's all this is. That's not true, Gwen protested. We just need my help, I laughed. Like I needed yours when my husband and sister betrayed me? I can prove everything, Derek said. Show you exactly how they planned it all. Wayne lunged across the table, grabbing Derek's collar. Coffee cups crashed to the floor. Wayne, stop, Gwen cried. The cafe manager appeared. Everything okay here? I stood up. No, it's not. These people were just leaving. Heidi, please. Gwen reached for my hand. I pulled away. You know what I realized? You're all exactly what you deserve. Wayne, the gambling addict who lost everything. Gwen, the sister who thought she could do better than me, only to end up worse. And Derek, I turned to him. The con man who got conned himself, falling for my sister while trying to scam my ex-husband. His smooth expression cracked. How did you... Those photos Mom showed me, the way you look at her. You're not here to help me. You're here because you're jealous of Wayne. The manager cleared his throat. I'm calling the police. Don't bother, I said, gathering my things. I'm done here, with all of them. What about us? Gwen asked desperately. We're still family. No, we're just people who used to know each other. I headed for the door, then paused. Oh, and Wayne, I'm pressing charges for the stolen money. Expect to hear from my lawyer. I walked out into the sunshine, leaving them with their broken relationships and shattered lives. My phone buzzed. Greg, still on for tonight? I smiled, typing back. Absolutely, I could use some normal. Behind me, I heard raised voices from the cafe. Let them fight it out. I had a life to live. The knock on my office door came just as I was finishing a client call. Through the glass, I saw all three of them, Wayne, Gwen, and Derek. Security's on their way, Naomi said, appearing beside me. Want me to stall them? I shook my head. Let them in. Time to end this. They filed in like chastened schoolchildren, looking worse than at the coffee shop. Gwen's mascara was smeared, Wayne's shirt was wrinkled, and Derek's usual swagger was gone. You have 5 minutes, I said, not offering them seats. Make it count. The police are investigating Derek, Gwen blurted out, for fraud. And this concerns me how? Because, Derek stepped forward, I can make it all go away. The fraud charges, Wayne's embezzlement, everything. One phone call. I raised an eyebrow. In exchange for? Drop the charges against Wayne for stealing your money. Help them get back on their feet. Why do you care? His eyes flicked to Gwen. Ah, you really did fall for her, didn't you? I laughed. The con man got his heart stolen. This isn't funny, Wayne growled. We're facing real jail time. Should have thought of that before stealing from me and your company, and probably others I don't know about. I'm pregnant, Gwen whispered. The room went silent. Wayne's head snapped toward her. Derek's face drained of color. Is it? Wayne started. I don't know, she said, tears falling. I don't know anything anymore. I sat down heavily in my chair. When? 8 weeks. She looked at me pleadingly. I can't have a baby in jail, Heidi. Please. That's low, even for you, I said. Using a baby to manipulate me? It's the truth. She pulled out a sonogram photo. I'm keeping it no matter what, but I need help. We all do. We? I looked between the three of them. What exactly is your plan here? Raise the baby together? One big happy family? Security appeared at my door. I waved them off. Not yet. I love her, Derek said quietly. Despite everything, I'll take care of her and the baby. Wayne lunged at him. This time, I let security intervene. Stop, Gwen screamed. Just stop. I don't want either of you. The security guards held Wayne back as Derek stepped away. What do you want, Gwen? I asked. Really? I want to go back, she sobbed. Before all this, when you were my sister and I wasn't such a horrible person. We can't go back. Then help me go forward. Please, for the baby's sake. My phone buzzed. Greg, still meeting your mom for dinner tonight? I looked at the text, then at the mess of people in front of me. My sister, pregnant and crying. My ex-husband restrained by security. The con man who fell for his own mark. Here's what's going to happen, I said, standing. Wayne, the charges stand. You stole from me, you face the consequences. Derek, whatever deal you're offering, take it to the police. I'm not getting involved. And me? Gwen asked softly. I took a deep breath. Mom's spare room is available. She's been begging to help. Go there, get your life together, have your baby. But don't expect me to play happy family. You'd do that? Help me after everything? I'm not doing it for you. I'm doing it for that baby, who deserves a chance at a normal life. I turned to security. Please escort Mr. Fisher and Mr. Jackson out of the building. As they led Wayne and Derek away, Gwen lingered. The baby could use an aunt, she said hesitantly. Don't push it. I handed her back the sonogram. Go to Mom's, get help. But understand this. We're not friends. We're not close sisters anymore. We're just people who share DNA. She nodded, clutching the photo. I really am sorry, you know. I know, but sorry doesn't fix everything. After she left, Naomi poked her head in. You okay? Actually, yes. I checked my phone again. Tell Greg I'll be late for dinner. I need to call Mom first. You're really going to help Gwen? I'm going to let Mom help Gwen. There's a difference. I started gathering my things. Sometimes the best revenge is letting people face their consequences while you live your best life. Speaking of best life, Greg asked me if you like diamonds. I threw a pen at her. Don't even start. But as I left the office, I couldn't help smiling. Let them sort out their messy lives. I had a dinner date to get to and a future that was finally completely my own. Ready for this? Greg squeezed my hand as we walked up Mom's driveway for Sunday dinner. Define ready, I said, eyeing the 2 extra cars parked outside. Gwen was here, obviously. She'd been living with Mom through her pregnancy. But the second car was new. Mom opened the door before we could knock. Heidi and Greg, so good to see you both. The house smelled like pot roast and fresh paint. Mom had been redecorating, turning the guest room into a nursery despite my warnings not to get too invested. In the living room, Gwen sat on the couch, her 7-month belly prominent under a flowing dress. Next to her was a woman I didn't recognize. This is Rachel, Mom said, Wayne's sister. I stiffened. Greg's hand found the small of my back, steadying me. Before you leave, Rachel said quickly, I wanted to thank you for not pressing charges against Wayne. I didn't drop the charges, I said. He took a plea deal. Still, 3 years is better than 10. She twisted her hands together. He's getting help in there. Real help, finally. Good for him. I meant it to sound sarcastic, but it came out sincere. And Derek? Greg asked, guiding me to sit across from Gwen. Witness protection, Gwen said quietly. Turns out he had evidence against some pretty dangerous people. That's why he was so desperate to make deals. Are you... I hesitated. Are you okay? About him? She rubbed her belly absently. I didn't love him. I didn't love Wayne either, not really. I think I just loved the idea of having something that was yours. Dinner's ready? Mom called from the kitchen, breaking the tension. Around the dinner table, Rachel shared updates about Wayne's progress in prison, anger management, gambling addiction therapy, job training. Gwen talked about her part-time job at the library and her prenatal classes. Mom beamed at everyone like her family was finally healing. Oh, Gwen suddenly grabbed her stomach. She's kicking. Want to feel? I hesitated. It's okay if you don't, she said. I know we're not. May I? Greg asked, surprising everyone. Gwen nodded. He placed his hand on her belly, grinning when he felt movement. That's amazing. he said. Heidi, you really should. I looked at my sister. Really looked at her. The designer clothes were gone, replaced by simple maternity wear. Her face was clearer, calmer. She met my eyes steadily. No manipulation, no desperation. Slowly, I reached out and placed my hand beside Greg's. The baby kicked. She does that a lot, Gwen said, especially when she hears voices. I've been reading to her. What are you going to name her? I found myself asking. I was thinking, Patricia, after Mom. Mom burst into tears, which made Rachel tear up, which had Gwen sniffling. Good Lord, I muttered, but I was smiling. After dinner, Greg and I helped with dishes while Rachel and Gwen went for a walk. Doctor's orders for gentle exercise. You know, Mom said, handing me a plate to dry. I was wrong before. About what? When I said I regretted staying with your father instead of running away, I was wrong. The hard choice was the right choice. I thought about Wayne in prison, Derek in witness protection, and Gwen living in Mom's spare room. About how taking the easy way out had cost them everything. I have something for you, Mom continued, pulling an envelope from her pocket. Found it while cleaning out the nursery. Inside was the silver locket I'd given Gwen years ago, the one she'd left behind in her apartment. She wants you to have it back, Mom said. Says she hasn't earned the right to keep it. I opened the locket, expecting our childhood photo. Instead, there was a tiny sonogram picture. She's not asking to be your best friend again, Mom said softly. Just to be in your life. Somehow. Any way you'll allow. Greg appeared with more dishes. Everything okay? I closed the locket, slipping it into my pocket. Yeah, everything's evolving. Later that night at home, Greg asked, Do you regret not getting revenge when you had the chance? I thought about Wayne facing his consequences in prison, about Derek losing everything he'd schemed for, about Gwen, stripped of her pretenses, finally growing up. Living well really is the best revenge, I said. Besides, I got something better than revenge. What's that? I pulled him close, kissing him softly. A future I chose, a life that's authentically mine, and I touched the locket in my pocket. Maybe a chance to be an aunt, eventually, on my own terms. You're amazing, you know that? I do know that, I said. Finally. Outside, the spring evening was warm and full of promise. Inside, I was exactly where I needed to be.